on, baby. Shooting good shit. Oh, yes. Very good, very good. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, oh, let's go. This show is brought to you by Harry's. Please visit harrys.com and use the promo code BIGGESTPROBLEM to save $5 off your first purchase. For the bonus episode last month, we did make a bet. Careful. One of our fans became an unwitting participant in a bet. Oh, yeah. And we have the conclusion. I think we have the conclusive proof of what. I have a voicemail from him if you want to hear it.
I think there's definitely going to be a fight over this conclusion.
Well, yeah, because if Maddox brought it up, he thinks he's right. He's definitely wrong. All right, let's hear it. Here is the voicemail. What was his name? Comrade Kratz. Comrade Kratz. Okay, here's the voicemail.
Holy shit, Maddox, you fucking dumb. You actually believe that the Voyager, a craft that's been hurtling through space at like 36,000 miles per hour for the last like 39 years, is really only 114 million miles away? So I 12.5 million, you fucking simpleton.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had to go skydiving.
Yeah. Here was the bet. You called in and said you were an idiot. Yeah. Because you said the Voyager spacecraft was solar powered, and I said Voyager was nuclear powered. Plutonium. Yeah. Something like that. Well, we don't have a record of it. And you said, it's solar powered. Don't be an idiot. And I said, well, I don't know. Someone else will check on that. This guy calls in and says, Maddox, obviously it's nuclear powered. There's not enough photons out there to power a solar panel.
Well, that's not true. There are.
Okay.
It's possible.
It's
That's
possible
not the reason. Look, he might be right, but that's not the reason he's right, shithead.
Say that again.
You can say
that
you
slower.
You can have a correct.
You arrived at that the wrong way.
Right.
That's why you like Common Core so much, right? Because you can get the right answer and still get 0 credit.
Yes, but that's not the point of it. The point is to think correctly and to arrive at the conclusion in the proper way. Otherwise, you just guess. You know what? If you on a test, if you on a multiple choice test, you just guess the answer and you get a credit. Like, well, I guess I knew the answer. It's like, no, you didn't, shithead. You guessed. You didn't know the answer.
Speaking of guessing. And during his voicemail, he said that Voyager is 20 billion miles from Earth. And you said, that's preposterous.
It is.
So I said, Maddox, hazard a guess. How far away do you think Voyager is?
Well, look, a lot of numbers were thrown out that episode, okay? A lot of numbers, We'll talk about the conclusion of that bet on the bonus episode. We don't have to talk about it today.
Well, what did you say?
I said, you know what? My mind's a little foggy right now.
You said 100 million miles.
No, I don't. You know what? Let's not quote.
Let's not quote. Everyone can go by in the bonus episode and hear for themselves what you said after thinking about it for a little bit.
There's a hook.
And then what was the bet? The bet was
for $12.
Whoever was closest to the actual. whoever's closest. Just because someone might be off by a couple orders of magnitude, that's okay. Or whoever's close,
or both people, okay? But moving on.
Not by orders of magnitude.
You know what?
Go look up orders of magnitude.
Yeah, I got orders of magnitude for you, Dick. The biggest problem in the universe from last week, our big episode 100, was addiction. Hey, Sean, your problem, people thought was the biggest problem we brought in last week.
What a vote grab.
Yeah, you fuck. And then followed by asteroids. And then followed by women, dead last, but it was still in the positive territory.
All you cucks out there not voting up women.
Oh my God. That's
so addiction,
don't do that.
even though, like, I don't think it's vote grab, because there's no point. Eventually, we're going to cover all the problems. And sometimes we discuss the problems ahead of time, what problems we're going to bring in. And sometimes you'll want to bring in a problem that you feel very passionately about, and I yield to you, and vice versa.
What are you talking about?
Problems that we bring into the
I
show.
know. What is this in reference to?
That whatever problem that we have, like if Sean hadn't brought in addiction, eventually you or I would have. One of us would have brought it in. We have to. It's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the problems of the universe. That's the name of the show. All right. Anyway, Sean, in deference to you, a lot of people in the comments said that I talked over you last time.
Wait, can I let them speak for themselves? I got some voicemails on there.
Great.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
Because it sounded like it was kind of your problem
What's wrong
anyway.
with you? We finally get to hear a problem from Sean, and you spent half the episode interrupting and talking over him. Shut the fuck up and let the man speak. Nevertheless,
Comments
go
like that?
fuck yourself.
Yeah, there was some comments like that. So in deference to you, Sean, if there was anything else you wanted to add to the problem, because it's a huge problem. We didn't even have enough time to cover the. I feel like we could have spent the entire scope of the episode.
Oh, we could have. And conversations go how they go, and that's you can't, especially on this show, you can't plan out a conversation because it's going to take a million lefts, when you think it's going to go right. So everybody talked the right amount. People got the idea of it. So I got some amazing emails actually.
But also, the shows are edited too, guys. Sometimes we have content that we cut from the show because of length, because of pacing, because it's not on point, in context.
Yeah.
Although
that's so bad.
Really not that often. Though.
Yeah.
Like people ask me that all the time. Very little is edited out of these shows. The show is pretty much the show.
Correct. On average,
it should be that.
On average,
Right.
no, it shouldn't.
Enough
On average,
information.
because Dick, everyone has to hear every single brain fart you make. When I was sitting with a podcast, I did a podcast for a friend of mine one time, and I sat down in front of the camera, and I noticed that on camera I was off frame, and I decided, you know what, I'm not going to tell him because he's looking at the same screen I'm looking at. I'm going to see if he fixed it. He didn't, and then throughout the entire episode, I kept hinting. I said, look. You gotta edit. Editing is key. Not everything. You have to put out your best version of yourself.
Of course.
I hate that. Audio levels, for sound effects, for mixing, all that shit. It's a professional product we're putting out. I'm proud of it. And on average, I cut about 2 minutes of a 90-minute episode. So you're not missing anything. If you want to hear what I cut, I can make a supercut of that, post it online.
Or you can just throw up an episode without cutting it. See what people say. Take a real risk.
I have posted a few episodes. I mean, here's the thing: you're not going to notice a huge difference in most of these
it's a bunch
episodes.
of uhs and like weird pauses and like fucking up reading or something like that.
It's a bunch of ums and uhs, stutters, things like that. And then sometimes, if a voicemail goes on too long, I'll edit that. Just little things here and there. It's not huge.
Here's one that's gonna go on too long.
Hey guys, this is Maddox from This Is How I Talk. You see, I wanted to sum up what I said in the previous episode one time about I'm a wife. And I wanted to know something I could have I found that side of the when that popped up to me, I'll throw the whole world. You know what, John? I'm going to stick to my life. That's very good. Oh. I'm going to interrupt you with my own vote.
Guy sounds like
I wouldn't have it any other way.
yeah. That guy sounds like a paper pusher.
This guy actually is serious. It's not you.
Hi guys, this is Daniel from Seattle. In response to the latest episode of Sean brought a problem of addiction, did anybody else notice that the one cocksucker in the room that admitted that he did not have a problem talked over the guy who admitted he had a problem?
I mean, we get the
That
point.
you have to be the biggest fuckstick asshole in the universe. You make me wish that an asteroid would hit this planet and knock out 10% of our population. So assholes like you wouldn't be around to interrupt people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. In all seriousness, though, guys, I have an appointment at the Veterans Administration Hospital this Friday to undergo alcohol treatment, and I was going to cancel it until I heard Sean's problem, and it didn't inspire me to do it. So I do appreciate bringing that problem, and it means a lot. Maddox, go to hell. Dick, go to rehab.
Fucking asshole.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man. Good for you.
No, that's not true. They all make that shit up so they can get on the show.
Fooled me.
You know what? That's a challenge to you, shithead. I don't think you're gonna get sober. That's a challenge.
Jesus Christ.
Is that a bad thing to say to an addict?
No.
You know what? Maybe that'll get the fire under his ass. I want to see that guy sober, because then maybe he'll realize what a brilliant mind he was shitting on. Maybe he'll realize, and he'll apologize. He'll write me a handwritten note someday, and he'll say, Maddox, I was wrong. I was a fucking idiot. That's one of his steps, yeah. He needs to apologize to someone he's wronged. That's me. That's me. Yeah. Winner.
I got one
Then
more.
you expect a letter from like everyone in the universe.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, I got, oh boy, I got two more. You can stomach that.
Is it more shitting on
So
me?
let me get this straight. Meteors and terrorism. You took a problem that is generally fear-mongered, that doesn't kill a lot of people, and you took another problem that has killed almost no people, and you fear-mongered it even more.
That's true.
No.
What is wrong?
It's not true.
That's kind of true.
No.
You did spend the whole episode saying that we should pool all of our money to protect against asteroids. And they haven't killed anybody.
Absolutely. Dick, you don't... The scope of...
But Ebola has killed people.
The scope of damage that asteroid can cause, right?
Yeah.
Is 100%. So you have to react to it, because when it happens, you don't react afterwards and be like, well, yeah, I guess it wiped out like 10 million people. We should probably have a defense system. That's too late. You need to be prepared for it so it doesn't get to that point. And by the way,
Why
again,
is this thing so
fear-mongering?
annoying?
No, not with asteroids, because we know it's an inevitability. It's 92 people per year on average, because based on these huge cataclysmic events, like if the Tunguska event happened over New York, they amortize that over the course of a century, and they said that's on average about 92 people per year get killed by asteroids. Now we know that's not the case, thankfully, but that's what you're looking at if an asteroid actually hit. And by the way, that's only a city-sized asteroid.
But 9/11 did happen. No Tunguska events happened on New York.
Yeah, what percentage of the population did 9/11 wipe out?
More than asteroids.
0%.
Well, what I found amazing was that Tunguska, that event, how big was that? It was like, what, like 9 or 10 feet
Yeah,
wide?
it was not that big.
It's tiny. It's amazing it could do that.
Yeah, it was a couple of parked cars next to each other, or maybe one. It doesn't take much for one of these asteroids. And by the way, they're black
Size
bodies.
doesn't matter.
What's that?
Size doesn't matter.
No. I got a comment here from Melvis Preston. Sounds like a real name. He says, fuck asteroids, build a wall and have the Martians pay for it. Good solution. And then I got a comment from
Always
Silius.
bringing up Trump.
Oh, this guy commented. I don't know.
Yeah.
This guy Silius.
This guy in the commented. I'm just passing on this information that happened to be on the website
That I
out of
selected from
600 comments.
I mean, I didn't mention Trump on the show, shithead. I never mentioned
just
Trump to
did.
begin with. No, to begin
you
with.
just did.
On this show. I mean, the show. The biggest problem in the universe. Not this
Yeah.
episode. The show.
What do
I
you
didn't
mean
mention Trump.
You brought in fuckface Donald Trump as a problem.
After you kept saying "Make America Great Again," I went to a Trump rally.
That was hilarious.
Trump. Okay.
He had no choice.
I had no choice. Yeah, I put you. Sorry for putting you in that position.
I mean, you don't want to talk about.
That's the position that Mexico's put us in. Go ahead.
I mean, you don't want to talk about Trump. Don't mention Trump. I won't mention Trump.
You just did.
No, but I'm saying if you going forward,
Can we
I can have a this can be a Trump-free zone.
We need a $12 bag.
I got a comment from Celia Soros. It says,
Go ahead, silly story.
Celia Soros says, I like Sean's problem. Addiction is like an asteroid hitting you before the real asteroid.
Yeah.
Combining two problems? I don't think so.
And then, no asteroid has ever got in a fight with me at a bar, right? no asteroid has ever thrown me out of an Uber because I said the wrong thing.
Well,
about some asteroid sister.
Statistically speaking, Dick, it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. I got a voicemail. Actually, Sean, I don't know when you have time to do this, but I got a voicemail from Sean. This will be rich.
Hey guys. That's how I talk. I was gonna record a message, a voicemail for you guys, congratulating you on 100 episodes. Sorry about that. Congratulations on 100 episodes, guys.
What's that, everybody?
Yeah. I'll see you at the show this week.
Lucky. Sean, nice of you to call in between bong rips.
That was
Yeah.
Shit. No.
My problem is, well, you know, it's 420 tomorrow. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Don't you have to take your time? You can just trust my math
Yeah,
on this
yeah.
one. I figured it out.
Yeah,
I looked at it. I know it's 420. You're not going to get well, for some people, it's a big deal. For some people, go all in the all day.
Oh, there's a lot.
But to libertarians, 420 is a great day to talk about my problem is more on drugs.
Okay. So where did this come from?
just a bomb.
No, I've never been
Yeah, what do you mean more on this time? What do you mean where did this come about?
That's good.
Yeah, no, the war is like very important drugs. What is that really about? What is this conflict?
Did you know?
Well, you're right. Yeah, but you're right. Nixon also, like, he wanted to keep an eye on the counterculture. So he was having.
Well, it's always been racist. I'll get to that, but what it is now is a system of crazy laws and outrageous spending that have created entire departments of paramilitary to crack down on something that everyone does, and that hurts pretty much nobody. We spent $1 trillion on the war on drugs. Since Nixon, we spent $1 trillion. So that's like $50 billion a year. You know what NASA's budget is?
What's that? Like I don't know.
It's like $20 billion a year.
NASA's budget?
$18 billion a year. Yeah,
lot
we're
of NASA's.
spending 2.5 times that every year to stop people from getting high.
Yeah.
Doesn't that seem a little? You should hate that.
Oh,
I
I
know
do.
you love space.
If we spend that money on building more NASA's, we get people real high.
Yeah, space elevator projected cost. I don't know where they get this. It's, space elevator projected cost $6 billion, $6 to $20 billion. 2 space elevators. Why cancel the war on drugs? Give me 2 space elevators.
Sure.
A year. Every year. You could get 1.6 billion after this year. How much that be $600?
That's one for 1/7 of the world's population.
But 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, put the whole world in DR. Okay, there's no war on drugs.
No war on drugs. So, but again, the war on drugs, this concept, this phrase came from the Reagan administration. That's what we grew up, you and Sean grew up in the 6th generation. All I remember growing up when I was a kid. Dared to say no to drugs. Driven, Nancy was going to have a good campaign. And I thought, when I was a kid, I thought it was a good campaign.
You thought the DARE campaign was a good campaign?
I mean, I grew up in Utah. There were no drugs around me.
There were no drugs, but we gotta stop being on these drugs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, like, I remember DARE when it came to my little school in Arizona, and they're like, well, you guys, you gotta stay out drugs. Like, man, this is the first time I've ever heard of drugs. Is when you guys came in here with these fucking DARE shirts. What's all this drugs about? What are you talking about?
At my school, they brought in like a display
sampler
case.
set.
Yeah, with like all kinds. It's like this is this, this is this, this is this, and I guess they educated you. But yeah, I've never seen any of that shit before.
No.
Well, sorry. Go
Well, the DARE, they rolled out this program nationwide without, and you should like this, without any evidence that it works at all, right? You would think you brought in the homeless problem, and according to you, it works. Like, let's see if this works.
According to the evidence, yes.
Well,
According to the studies and the evidence.
Well, it works in Utah. We know it works in Utah.
we don't, though.
And
because
it works in Canada. No,
They
it works
changed
in
the way they counted homeless people.
Dick, that's the fucking That's a fucking bullshit ass AEI institute. This right wing think tank came out with this. Let's not interrupt. The AEI right wing think tank institute, right? The same people who miraculously came out with a study that said fast food is healthy for you. Right when McDonald's needed a PR bump when Super Size Me came out. These are the people who came out with a study saying, oh, it's an accounting thing. Really, if you look at the numbers and you compound them this way, the specific way, there's actually it's a net neutral. But that they didn't use the same accounting system in other cities where the same project has worked. Same project, same exact method, and it's worked in multiple cities. But the AEI is coming out the poo-poo on this and saying it's yeah, tell that to the guy who moved back to Chicago and is living with his family and is now a contributing taxpayer. Tell that to that guy who's no longer living on the streets. Tell him it doesn't work. Go ahead.
We get it. You like the homeless. We get it. You want to fix homelessness. Speaking of taxes, if illegal drugs were taxed, we'd get $50 billion in taxes, and we'd save another 50. It's $50 billion fighting it every year. That's $100 billion. Well, holy shit, that's a lot of money.
The war on drugs costs an incredible amount and also gets people killed.
Right. Dude, even worse, it gets 2 million people put in prison every year.
Yeah.
Like, if you just look at it from an ideological perspective, like educated to, like, hey, we'd love to make this thing illegal because then we just fix it. But instead, we've got to break our backs educating these stupid kids on how to use condoms or how to get an IUD. We'll even pay you for it. We'll make you pay. Because that's like a sensible way to go about it. But when it comes to drugs, like teenage design, that's you're going straight to fucking jail.
Yeah.
No way, we're not educating you at all. Jail.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. And it disproportionately affects lower income people and blacks, especially.
10 times more likely. It's 10 times more likely to go to prison if you're black for a drug offense than you are if you're white, and you're less likely to use it. You're less likely to use drugs if you're black or white. I don't know why that is.
That's a fascinating study. I just recently read about
White really like black, but still like black.
Well, yeah, but that's what.
Yeah, well, it's not way more likely. Yeah, it doesn't correspond with the work incarceration at all.
Yeah, that's the stereotype is that black people do more drugs, especially in lower income. But that study came out, Dick, that you mentioned, is they found that black people are less likely to do drugs, but more likely to get arrested for doing drugs.
Yeah, here you are. If you're likely to be an abuser, it's like here. Native American, 5% black.
Don't do that.
You guys are big winners on the addiction front.
Definitely.
That's how likely you are to be addicted to drugs. But you're way more likely to be arrested. For-profit prison system, right?
This is a huge problem. This is a problem with many different heads, and it leads into other problems. The prison system you mentioned specifically, it leads to higher unemployment because once you get incarcerated, you come out, that's always going to be on the record.
Oh, you can't escape it.
And then we're coming full circle because you talk about the problem of blacks being arrested disproportionately compared to how much they do their crime or their drugs, right? Now you have all the black people come out of prison. You have the prison on their employment record, their history. Then they apply for a job, and you know when you're applying for a job, you see on your application, have you ever been convicted of a felony? You have to check that box. Man, and you put yourself in the position of a hiring manager, and you see that on your resume. Trash. Right. You're not supposed to, but most people probably do because they don't want to even get into it, they don't want to take the risk, they don't want to know about it. You've been to prison, why should I hire you over these 10 other applicants who are qualified and haven't been to prison? It's going to be a stigma on the rest of your life, the record of the rest of your life, and then it leads to higher crime rates because of unemployment, and it just becomes a vicious cycle.
And there's no quality control
For what? That's true. That's a good point.
I've never eaten a pizza and turned to my friend and said, does this pizza taste like there's a little bit of heroin in it? Like, do you think this pizza has any meth in it? I feel really weird. No, because there's a gigantic agency making sure that doesn't happen. Otherwise, you're like, huh? I gotta eat this pizza because it took me like 3 hours to get for some reason, and I had to schmooze up a guy I haven't spoken to in 2 years. Speaking of pizza and drugs,
and regulation.
yeah, right before right before Colorado legalized pot, like a month before, Peyton Manning bought something like 15 Papa John's franchises. And I'm going, what a fucking genius. What a fucking genius. No, I can't. I go on my way now. Because all I want to do is lay on the couch and thank God it makes me too lazy to sleep when I go. Like I can't even move my fingers to orders off of it.
So, but that speaks to the therapeutic effects of marijuana sometimes. Because as long as I didn't believe in it, I felt like most people who want to smoke just say they want to smoke and that's the reason they want to do it.
I think that's true, but there is medical evidence more and more of it.
There is, especially for hospital patients who have lost their appetite to chemotherapy and things like that. It can help activate your appetite.
respect to the law. This is kind of an opposite point about it, but I do think, I'm not a fan of these, okay? But what I try to do is because they're always cracking down on something that I don't think is wrong. How can you respect that? How can everyone in America is doing this, is getting high, and they're telling you all the time for no reason, for reasons that you don't understand, that make no sense, that you're not allowed to do it, and they're throwing you in prison for it or fining you for it. How can you have any respect for that institution? It's driven a gigantic wedge between what used to be like the Andy Griffith Show, the friendly town sheriff, who is there to protect you, and I assume wants to protect you. Now he's policing what you put in your body. There's a big difference to that, and I think it's evolved into this atmosphere of hating police.
Well, the problem is the laws on the books that they have to enforce.
Well, but yeah.
Well, you and I, like, I've got a long-time friend who had a long career with the sheriff's department, and Dick was there too.
Yeah.
And he used to go on the, he used to lead the road as a sergeant for how the, how government operates, going to LA, the whole time, and stuff like that. And I've never heard him say anything different than our drug laws are fair.
Right. Well, so of all the things you said, I agree with most of it, but something I take issue with is something you said is probably which is that it hurts no one. Now, we know for a fact that drugs definitely do hurt people. Not only do they hurt people who get addicted, but they hurt people sometimes even recreationally. If you use a recreational, like certain drugs like acid, certain drugs.
So why do you gas it?
It can cause permanent changes in your brain chemistry. You can have acid flashbacks for the rest of your life if they even find it once. It's not that well, for most people, right? But for some people, if they even try it once, you can have that acid flashback. And
You know what's way fucking worse? Sugar.
Well,
Fast food.
okay, hold on.
600,000 deaths from heart attacks and from obesity in the U.S. alone. Worldwide, drugs cause 200,000 deaths.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, but it's not just deaths. We're not talking about just deaths. What I'm going to say is that it can cause holes inside your brain. It actually destroys brain matter. So it's going to be drug use, and if you get to a certain point, you stop being self-sufficient, you have cognitive disorders, you're not a functional member of society, and then what? What do you do? You're a drain on the health care.
So you're already, think about millions of people in jail. So let me put it to you this way, then. So I'm going to skip past the point where I say you have no right to moralize what I do with my brain and my body. You have no right to do that. And number two, totally inconsistent with all of our other values in society. Drugs, horrible because they chew up your brain. Public is wildly misinformed about that. You even said yourself acid could cause holes in your brain to last for the rest of your life.
Right.
That's just as crazy as an asteroid killing you. Like, the odds of that are phenomenally low. However, I will say this. If we're looking at supporting these whatever ruined drug addicts you're talking about,
Right.
would you rather put them up and pay for their prison stay for 20 years? For getting caught, or would you deal with maybe every once in a while someone drugs themselves out into a 70s style, laying in bed, no more time, like totally destitute, and have to put them in some kind of hospital? Well, if you're really weighing the economics of it, which one do you think saves money? The prison or the hospital?
I don't know which
Because
one.
you have to do the hospital anyway.
Okay.
So why are we paying for the prison part?
I don't know which one would eventually save the most money. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I think that's a larger discussion that requires some study. And I know which one I prefer just from an ethical standpoint, which is hospital, because at least it doesn't stigma on the record for this, you know.
And that's how you can't prevent the hospital one anyway. The prison sure as hell is doing it.
Yeah, but it does. I mean, let's not pretend like drugs are totally harmless and they are totally innocent and it's just
They're
recreational.
way less harmless than every single thing everybody does every day. They're less harmless than the shit we put in our bodies to eat. And the drugs are less harmful than what people eat every day.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, in my family, there's been social services called multiple times because they're neglecting their kids. The kids don't have a choice in the matter.
Right.
So if you just want to make a blanket statement that drugs aren't harmful,
Right.
I mean, they are, and I don't think you're saying that, but it's they don't have a choice. Like if the parents do drugs, but on the flip side,
That's why we have social services. Right.
but
Take
on,
the kids.
But on the flip, well, yeah, but you don't know what happens to kids in social services.
Hey,
It's
right.
worse than
If you're talking about like serious neglect, like the kids
Yeah.
are starving, then you know, at least that's the best we can do. There's no
No,
good fix for that.
No, there's not. There's not. But at the same time, whether they're legal or not, if you have kids, you need to decide that those kids are more important, or you need to not do drugs.
But we have case studies where people have made that decision over and over and over again, and they choose the drugs because. And here's where I
They
just
do,
Yeah, the
agree with you,
laws
Dave.
don't help.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah, the laws
hold
aren't
on.
making it harder to
Well,
get
I
any
don't.
drugs.
It doesn't seem like they do.
Hold on. Let me play devil's advocate here for a
Yeah,
second.
sure.
Because let's say that drugs were more readily available and easier for people to get. That's a huge potential risk. Like this is politically. Hold on. Let me finish this point. It's political suicide. It's a minefield to walk through to try to propose some legislation that may make more addicts. If any politician came through and said, okay, the war on drugs isn't working, let's make them legal, and then suddenly you see a big bump in heroin addicts or people who are addicted to meth, and then that's political suicide, not just for that person, but for the potential party or people who voted that legislation in. So it's not as simple as simply saying, okay, well, let's just get rid of the war on drugs. How do you effectively do that? And is it actually worse than the food that people are eating? Because no one can agree on whether or not eggs are good for you, or butter is good for you, or milk is good for you. Like every fucking week
Yeah,
there's a
and
study.
no one can agree on if acid chews holes in your brain either. Like
No,
the amount of misinformation about drugs is so out of control that I think if it was about something you cared about, like if it was about video games or meat or something that you enjoyed every once in a while, your tune would be totally different. Like if it was just X, if we replaced the word drugs with something else, not only your opinion, but everybody's opinion would be wildly different about it.
Well, I had an uncle who had a brain scan, like a CT scan, I guess. The doctor came in and he said, Mr. So-and-so, you don't have to answer this, but have you abused cocaine? You know, you can see it right on his brain.
Yeah.
And it was
See,
like,
it's not like you're saying, Dick. It's not like the research is that the jury's out still. We're trying to decide whether or not that. There are X-rays. You can Google this right now. There are X-rays of holes in people's brains that they've seen on MRI scans because they did too much drugs.
But you said once. That's the issue. You said
Oh,
once.
well, even-
that's crazy fear mongering. That's
No,
like
I
saying
said
ecstasy
recreationally.
kills tons of. It doesn't.
No. I said recreationally. Recreational use. If you do occasional recreational use, even that can have that kind of effect. But one
You
time
said
for
once.
no, I specifically was talking about acid. If you
Yeah.
use acid one time, you can still have flashbacks for the rest of your life. Now I know it may be unlikely. I know it may be rare, but it is a possibility, and it's something that you have to really consider. If you're at a party and someone slips you a pill, which by the way you don't know what it's cut with, you don't know how the that goes back to the regulation of drugs.
Yeah, the idea that we're discussing these crazy statistical anomalies as a function of like massive government bureaucracies is kind of retarded.
now here's what I want to know. Are there countries where, because Maddox, you were talking about, potentially more addicts, and that's always been the argument against ending the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Do you have any stats or anything like that that shows maybe a country where drugs were illegal and are now legal, and the numbers that correspond to that?
I don't have those stats, but I would
I'm
be
curious.
wary of any stats that came out of the U.S. on that because like how can you have an accurate stat on something that's
Yeah, but you get it
wild
from, you get it from their government.
Yeah.
Well, and also there are ethical concerns with studying something like this. Like scientists and doctors and researchers have to do no harm to their patients. So if you have someone coming into your office, you can't give them meth. You can't have a control group that has meth and one has placebos and one has so on and so forth. There's ethical concerns with stuff like this. So the amount of research that we have out there, it may be spotty, but we know that drugs can be a problem. I think that before we start to talk about legalizing all drugs as a blanket statement, we need to find out the root causes of addiction and make sure that that doesn't happen and try to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the reason that this big war on drugs has been conflated into such a huge issue, so many people have been put into the prison pipeline, is specifically because marijuana has been illegal, which is, if you're lumping into with the other hard drugs, that's kind of like, lumping in cigarettes with firearms, which they do in our government.
Yeah. Well, here's why your Here's why all of that's extremely disingenuous. Because you're putting the onus on the wrong side of the equation. You're saying, make something illegal until you've proven to me that it should be legal. And it should be legal already. The only reason it's illegal is because of racism. Every single drug has been outlawed. Let's see here. 1870s, it was Chinese immigrants with opium. Then the first anti-cocaine laws in the South came in the early 1900s against black people. Then anti-marijuana in the Midwest and the Southwest in the 1910s and 20s. At every single stage, even during Nixon, it was about race. So to take any kind of ethical or moral high ground against addiction or whatever is an argument you're making after the fact on a law that was enacted because of racism. Like now it's like, oh well, it was racist when we did it, but maybe it's causing some good, so let's really look at it before we roll it back. It should be instantly rolled back because they have no right to do it. It's totally unlawful.
Well, I think that the majority of the reason may be racism. I don't think it's all. I don't think it's entirely. I do think that people do look at the data. They look at the junkies. They look at the addicts. They look at people who have trouble with addiction. And because drugs are specifically so addictive, that's why they're a problem. And Dick, you said earlier
They're
that
not as addictive as fast food.
Okay, that's not true. You said earlier that if this was anything that I liked, that we were talking about addiction, I brought in internet addiction as a problem. And I love the internet. I have dealt with that personally. I found myself spending hours in front of some shit to the point where I have to sabotage my own ability to surf the internet. I hide Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing and make it difficult for myself to get to it because of internet addiction. Now I know it's a problem, but I don't think it's a problem to the scope of drug use. Here's why in your brain you don't understand what the issue is here. Imagine if the government said you using your computer to get on the internet for more than 2 hours a day was illegal. That's exactly what they're doing with drugs. Well, yeah, but me getting on the internet for, say, 6-7 hours a day, unless I'm neglecting a child who's not being fed, unless I'm,
Did you hear the scenario I just said?
Yes,
they came to you and said, if you're in there for more than 2 hours, you're going to jail. I'm addressing what you just said. If I'm sitting there and I'm using my internet for more than that, and then I'm neglecting a child, I get it, because that's usually the case with drugs. Drugs are illegal. That's not the law, though. Well, okay, but that's the reason. That's the well, okay. Racism aside, you can make the case that that's the reason. With internet addiction, it's not going to cause me permanent harm. Yeah. So imagine if you were trying to make this argument, except the internet was illegal, because that's what we're doing. Our stuff is your stuff, all legal. Me, bicycles, all the stuff that you like, all legal. Right. Drugs, illegal for no reason. Like, well, what's wrong with using the internet for a couple hours a day? Well, it's illegal. Well, now I gotta argue against that? How the fuck can I argue against that when you never proved it? Yeah, not only did you never prove making it illegal helps at all, you never proved it was a big problem in the first place. Right. Well, I'm with you, man, but where do you start to even solve this problem? Because you have this entrenched in society. Again, it's political suicide. That's states' rights. Oh, okay. That's right. I mean, what do you mean? How you raise your hand? Wait, that's Colorado and Washington are leading the way.
Well, it's true, but that's still federally illegal.
Yeah, but
and that's the thing. And the Civil War, it ended up being a war about slavery more than it was at the beginning. But it was about states' rights, and the states lost.
Yeah. Well, we'll have another one. Well, the race issue is a big component of this. I'll give you that. However, there's certain drugs. I don't think that most regulation comes from people sitting around being bored and trying to fuck with your life. That's not how regulation happens. Regulation is reactive, not proactive. So you sit around. Hold on. They're not sitting around trying to come up with ways to fuck with you. For example, ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, I think, is still legal in America, or maybe. There's a lot of different types of opiates that Native Americans use in their rituals and part of their beliefs and so on and so forth. They're not illegal until I think that they find a reason to make it illegal. Or maybe, Dick, to be totally cynical, maybe to make it illegal to get additional revenue by fining people and putting people in jail. No, I mean, I don't think you're being nearly cynical enough. They make drugs illegal when they find that kids are using them. And they do it to chin up alarmism. They do it to gin up a sort of religious fervor that's anti-drug related. Like the reason so many politicians can be as anti-drug as they are is because the only argument for it is, I don't know, personal freedom and it feels good. Like that's a really hard, unless you believe in personal freedom, that's a really hard argument to make because they just throw stats at you until you kind of walk away and you say, I'll just do it illegally then. Fuck you. And I bet all of you do drugs too. So fuck you too. Like it's all political grandstanding.
Yeah. Well, it's a big problem, Dick. The war on drugs is a big problem. I'm not even sure there's a clear-cut solution. I don't even know how to get out of it. Yeah, but again, it's political suicide.
What do you mean you're not running for office? What do you mean it's political suicide? Colorado's done it. Washington's done it.
No, with marijuana, that has been there's copious amounts of material and fucking stoners who won't shut the fuck up about it, who will just badger your ear off about how marijuana is safe and good for you and it cures cancer and all this other bullshit for years and years, and then people do it and they see the effects, and no one becomes a marijuana junkie, no one becomes a marijuana addict, no one really. Marijuana is not a huge problem, so that's why with marijuana specifically. A few states have been passing legislation saying, look, let's chill out on marijuana. But with other hard drugs, Dick, I don't think that's going to be the case.
You think marijuana is less dangerous than cocaine? You think liquor's less dangerous than cocaine? Man.
No, but
I think your drug education is very minimal.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
That's a straw man argument. I didn't say that. I said specifically marijuana. Now, if you're going to legalize meth and heroin and these other shit, and then all of a sudden you see a big spike in junkies the next year, guess what? That's fucking political suicide. That's why it's a politically untenable situation for politicians to come in and say, well, you know what? Our state's going to be the first to blanket sweep all drugs legal.
I mean,
don't think
said
it's
that
gonna
about
happen.
gay marriage. You'd be on the side of if 20 years ago I would have brought in gay marriage rights, you would have said the exact same thing then. Political suicide. It's political suicide because it was back then.
Right.
Well, hopefully there's men who are more brave in America than that. Who can say, this is wrong, this is bad, there's no proof for it. It was obviously racially motivated, as said by the head of the DEA under Nixon.
Yeah.
So let's just end it. It's up to you to prove that it needs to go on the books again.
If there was a way to do that without attaching any politician or political party to it, I think that would...
If there was a way to pass a law without involving politicians?
Because the politicians we have today in Washington, D.C. are so cowardly that they will create these weird groups of bipartisan groups that pass legislation so neither party can really get the blame for it if something goes wrong. It's just so cowardly right now.
Well, if the states do it, they have to do it. They don't have a choice. Most of the funding for the DA comes from states anyway. I don't believe. I don't have the stats.
All right,
that's my problem. You know who does support states' rights? Is Harry's. Today's show is brought to you by Harry's. Please visit harrys.com and use the promo code Biggest Problem to save $5 off your first purchase. Harry's makes it's a German-engineered 5-blade cartridge that gives you a close and comfortable shave with no cuts or burns. Maddox and I have both been using them for a year. We're great. We're highly satisfied. It makes me want to shave more. I wish my beard grew faster so I could shave it more times a day. The experience is so pleasurable.
Buddy, you need hot sauce.
That would make my beard grow faster? Well, if Harry's made some, I would buy it because it's so easy to buy off Harry's. I don't have to go to the store. I haven't been to the store in forever.
Yeah.
And I hate going to the store.
Forget
stores. Like wallowing in depression in my apartment. So Harry's makes it easy to do that.
You don't have to meet some weird guy in an alley. Hook up Harry's.
Exactly. I don't have why pay $32 for an 8-pack of blades when you can get them for half the price at harrys.com? You get, what do you get? You get the gel, you get the blade pack.
Yeah,
and
the shaving butter.
The shaving butter or the cream.
Yeah.
Which one do you like again?
I like the gel. I like the shaving gel.
Is that the one that's like really slippery?
It's the one that comes out like it looks like gel, and then you put it on your face and it turns into foam. And I will say this: when the product first came out, that stuff shot out like a rocket, and Harry's fixed it. I think they listened to this podcast. They did. Yeah.
It did. It shot. I almost blew my hand off the first time I used it.
Yeah, it was like a shotgun. But they fixed it to their credit, and now it comes out silky smooth.
That's great. Harry's listens to their customers, unlike the federal government. Go to harrys.com. Promo code Biggest Problem, save $5 off your first purchase.
And thanks for listening, guys. And most importantly, Dick, I think with Harry's is our fans love it. Thanks for supporting us, guys. All right, I got a real big problem, Dick. This may be related to your problem. I think it is in a lot of ways. It's the golf.
Is it a superset?
That's a good question.
I don't know, Sean. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But it is the Gollum effect, Right? Have you ever heard of this?
The guy in Lord of the Rings?
You know, that's the first thing I thought of, but a golem predates Lord of the Rings. A golem is originally a big stone or clay creature that comes to life magically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are there too many of those roaming around?
Huge
killing
problem.
people?
Yeah.
Like asteroids?
It actually comes from an old Jewish fable.
I thought so, but I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, no, it is. The golem
Because I
effect.
didn't know if it was anti-Semitic somehow. I was like, why do I know that?
In this climate, Dick, anything you can say can be perceived as racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic. Everything you say is fucking wrong these days.
Yeah, but I also don't know how much of my information I got off of like a thread on 4chan.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta try to remember if I read that in a book or if I read that in a thread.
Yeah. The golem effect is basically a type of self-fulfilling prophecy, except instead of turning into a giant clay creature brought to life by magic, you turn into a failure. Yeah. You start out as a promising young Geodude, and then bam! Next thing you know, you're a golem. Who easily succumbs to water, ice, and even grass. Can you believe that? Even grass. What kind of dipshit Pokemon succumbs to grass type? Grass is the weak.
No,
the
because grass gets in the cracks.
Grass.
That's why.
That rhymes.
If you're, so it's got to be true. If you're a rock monster, like
Yeah.
if you're an onyx
Oh,
or
I see what you're saying.
your cracks are the weakest part.
That's a good point.
So those vines wriggle in there.
I know. I was also thinking about how much thought they put into the Pokemon evolution of these characters and why they're weak to certain types. And I was looking at the Geodude and the Golem that he evolves to, and water and ice also corrode rocks. Over time, water and ice corrodes rocks, and ice specifically because water gets in the cracks, and then when it freezes, it expands and then breaks apart rocks. They put a lot of thought into that, I think. And also fighting. Fighting also destroys rocks.
Sure.
Yeah, where's it down?
Obvious, though.
Have you ever seen Kung Fu movie? Come on, idiots, look it up.
Where they fight the Rock Clan? No, I've never seen that movie.
where they break through the concrete. Yeah.
That'd be a good movie. No problem.
Yeah. Bunch of Shaolin monks fighting golems.
Rock monsters.
Yeah, rock monsters. That'd be cool as shit. All right, guys. The golem effect. This is from Wikipedia. The golem effect is a psychological phenomenon in which lower expectations placed upon an individual, either by supervisors or the individual themselves, lead to poorer performance by the individual. The effect is mostly seen and studied in education and organizational environments. It is a form of self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, the opposite of the golem effect is something called the Pygmalion effect, which is exactly what it sounds like when I said the opposite.
So this is low expectations? That's your problem, pretty much?
Well, low expectations that then become a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's a bunch of steps to how it works. First, you form or learn the expectation, right? Because it can be a learned expectation.
Give me an example. I don't learn well without an example.
For example, you hear this statistic that black people do the most drugs.
Can we make it a fun example, though? Not about black people doing drugs.
Yeah, I was just trying to relate it back to your problem.
No, I don't want to relate it to my problem.
Okay, you want a fun? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't think of fun examples because all I can think of are depressing ones.
Not a surprise. Let's say you're expecting that if you talk to a girl, it won't go well.
There you go. Okay. It's still not fun, but it's better than the other depressing shit.
You know, it's a reason to live.
Yeah.
No, that's a good example.
Well, then it goes back to self-defeating thoughts too. When you think that you don't have a chance of succeeding with talking to a girl or talking to a guy or a job application or whatever.
I knew a guy.
Yeah, for girls,
no problem.
or guys. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you're interested in someone, you know what? I got to give some kudos to girls who hit on guys because there's a lot of stigma a lot of times, and girls who do it got some balls.
Yeah.
Literal testicles.
A little forward.
Anyway, you form or learn an expectation, right? That's the first step. The second is you communicate that expectation. And the third is the behavior is adapted to meet that expectation in the person you're observing. And then the fourth is the expectation occurs. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The expectation that you have of someone eventually becomes that.
And it has to be bad for it to be called the golem effect?
Yes. The positive of that is if you have high expectations for someone, they fulfill that expectation.
Okay. So, like, everyone thought Frodo would get the ring to Mordor.
This is
But he wouldn't have been able to do it without Golem, even though Golem was an asshole. Right? Is that the Golem effect?
He was motivated by the Golem effect.
Yeah, he was.
No, that is not the Golem effect. Thanks.
I saw that movie,
Yeah.
Maddox. I know what Gollum did, alright?
Okay.
Calm down.
That's not the that's not the Gollum effect. In 1968, there's a couple of researchers, Rosenthal and Jacobson. They asked students in an elementary school to take an intelligence pretest, and they randomly selected 20% of the students and told the teachers that these students that they randomly selected were going to have potential for intellectual growth, and that they'd be sure to bloom academically within 1 year. 8 months later, sure enough, the students who were picked scored significantly higher on their tests.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that the Pygmalion effect?
That's the Pygmalion effect.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they did a similar study with students where they picked some students. They said, well, these ones we expect to do well. These ones we expect to do poorly.
And
they
they're
found-
ugly. Alright.
you know,
why not? Like, if you're gonna shit on kids, why not just go all the way?
Well, here's the thing. The likelihood of the teacher's susceptibility to biases plays into this. So they found that it affects students when the teacher is more susceptible to being biased. And a lot of people are. A lot of people, it's a cognitive bias. I mean, it's a bias.
No, I wrote my buddy's, his son was in junior high, and I wrote his paper for him one day. He was having some kind of barbecue, and the kid couldn't come out and screw around because he was upstairs writing a paper. And I was like, let me take a crack at that. So I just wrote his paper, like, no big deal. It took like 20 minutes. You got a fucking C. I got a C, and I was like, what? I was like, wait a minute. I know for a fact that paper was not read, and that it was just graded based on what this kid traditionally gets, which is like in the C range. Like it pissed me off so immediately, and so, like, I'm still mad about it. It was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, you got a C, buddy. You failed his kid's test.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, that's what I usually get. I'm like, what do you mean that's not, you didn't write the paper, you motherfucker, I wrote it.
How old is he?
Oh, man.
He was in junior high. How old is that?
Maybe
12, 13.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's
he...
a great paper. I was like, what's this fucking bitch? Does she not understand what she probably doesn't understand what I'm saying here. I want to go to that school.
To be fair, Dick, some of your pros can be very confusing, as we heard in the last episode.
I got a voicemail on that.
Oh, good. We'll hear it at the end of the
show.
show. Yeah, some of it can be very confusing.
I didn't want to bring in Trump again, though, so I didn't play
Oh, well, you mentioned it. There you go. You lost the bet. Hey, but maybe you got the C, Dick, because your nephew or whoever had low expectations of you. Maybe that was the Gollum effect.
What do you mean? My friend's
Your
kid
friend's
had
kid,
low expectations of me?
Yeah, maybe that's a Gollum effect.
No, he didn't care. He just didn't want to write the paper.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, guys, this now here's where I want to tie it into something that's more, I guess, prescient. This could be related to the reason why more women are comedians, and people. No, it's
There's
true.
plenty. You got plenty.
Of course, people believe women aren't funny, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, I didn't really.
You think women are hilarious, right?
Well, of course. Okay. I don't know. That's such a fucking load. I hate the way you ask that.
Why is it so loaded? Why? What's wrong with that
Great.
question? Okay, good. I just wanted that on the record.
I gotta be honest though. When I was doing research for this problem, I wasn't thinking about this specific application of the Gollum effect until this literal sentence that I wrote down about women being, people thinking that women aren't funny, and
Who thinks that?
a lot of people think
Jerry
women
Lewis.
are funny. Yeah. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, there's a lot
He's
of.
also 100 years old and probably pisses himself when he gets up in the morning.
That's pretty funny.
He's a comedian. He was always
Yeah.
a physical comic, too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. If you search Google right now for the phrase "women aren't funny," you'll find
What's
thousands,
going
hundreds
on
of
there?
thousands of results.
I don't know what's going
It's
on
because
there.
people have that perception,
It's gonna dry.
and then maybe that perception becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is what it says. This is according to Wikipedia. When arbitrarily informed that a particular student is bright or dull, not only will a supervisor's behavior change to favor the bright students, as indicated by more praise or attention, the students themselves will exhibit behaviors in line with their labels, such as the bright students leaning more forward in their chairs relative to the dull students. So
Look at
it's maybe
that.
kind of like learned behavior that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you keep telling women they're not funny, they're not funny, they're not funny. But then I look at the number of stand-up comics I see at an open mic, and I take the percentage of funny male comedians and the percentage of funny female comedians, and they're pretty.
It's both about zero.
They're both hovering right around zero.
successfully not funny.
Yeah, I went to an open mic a long time ago, and
Did
there
you
were
perform?
no, hell no. there were 50 comedians. 50 comedians came up all night long, and you know, I think only about 10 of them were women. And of those, I think 2 of them were funny. But then of the guys, only about 10 were funny. It's about the same percentage. And I thought, well, there you go. It's not that there aren't funny women. It's that there are fewer female comedians, and that's why we have the perception that women aren't funny. Because most of the, I know so many funny women.
Numbers-wise, isn't that true then? You got 10 funny guys there and 2 funny women.
Out of like 10.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. 10 out of, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not always percentages, though.
No.
You're saying numbers-wise. Oh, there's more funny guys. 10 and 2.
Well, exactly. But there were more guys auditioning. You don't think of the guys who audition and fail. You don't think of those guys. You only see the funny ones, and then you think, oh, guys are funny. And then there aren't that many funny female comedians because there aren't that many female comedians. Well, I know lots of funny female comedians. I know so many. Some of the funniest people I know in my life are women.
Yeah.
We've had them on the show. I think Robin Higgins is hilarious. You should check out her Wheel of Fortune expose. Yeah,
she's
fantastic.
Great. I don't think that. Do you think that women are constantly being told that they're like? It seems to me all I ever hear is women are hilarious. They could do science and math. They could be whatever size and shape they want. Like I have never heard maybe some off the wall Jerry Lewis clip from way long ago that isn't. But all I hear is women could do anything and they're funny all the time. Do you really think they get the message that they're not, that they shouldn't be funny?
Yes. Hey, even Adam Carolla not too long ago, and this quote was taken out of context to be fair to Adam, but even Adam Carolla a while ago said that if there is a woman in a comedy room, she's there because she's a woman, not necessarily because she's funny. And he was making a statement not about women, but a statement about how there's kind of like this affirmative action going on in our culture.
Which is certainly true.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what he was making a statement about. But
I mean, how many times have you seen like releases about saying we're only looking for female comedians to staff this writing job?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Exactly.
To me.
And it's trying to right some perceived wrong in our society or our culture.
And sometimes we all lose. Like in the case of writing, it's like you want the best writers, right?
Yeah, like in the new Ghostbusters, we're all gonna lose out. Right? So,
oh boy.
no, but see, okay, but this is what I was back to my point. You're saying 2 funny females and 2 funny women, 10 funny guys, right?
Yeah.
That's more. Saying that the percentages, I don't think is, people aren't really, like, the percentages takes a whole nother element. Where you're like, well, this is who came out to be funny. I don't know why they did it. I don't know why it was so many less women.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not gonna guess. It's just that's what we ended up with.
I'm with you, Dick, but here's where my perception of that kind of changed. I dated a bunch of girls, and I was surprised that they all had a similar background. They all said that they were really interested in computer science and mathematics in college and high school. I said, well, so what happened? And this one girl specifically told me that in college, she joined her class, and she felt the professor really, really didn't like her. She felt right from the get-go, the professor looked at her differently. He was this older Indian dude who thought that women don't belong in that profession. And he made it clear.
Do we know that?
Yes.
Okay.
We know that. He made it clear to her. He said that he questioned why she was taking the class in the first place and if it was an accident. He constantly quizzed her. He constantly quizzed her on her knowledge and made her work harder to prove herself. And then she finally had evidence of bias from this professor when she did a group project. And she wrote all the code. And it was the exact same code that like the entire group had turned in. Everyone in her group got an A except she got a B for that exact same project. And that's when she knew. She went to the professor, she went to the dean, and they eventually reversed her grade, but the guy still worked there. Another example, I dated another girl who, in computer science, she was in a computer science class. She had a great interest in mathematics and programming. The professor kept hitting on her and kept hitting on her and kept hitting on her. And eventually, it got so out of control that the professor asked her to stay after class and to, for some extra credit or something. And it was really creepy shit you see like in movies and things like that. And she said that she was too skeeved out because that was the only teacher in high school who was teaching computer science, so she dropped out of the major. She lost interest. So I changed my opinion on this
institutionalized sexism.
Yeah, it does happen.
Should bring in men. That's a problem.
Wow. I don't think men are.
Nobody should.
I think sexism is a problem, but it goes both ways. And But that, there is something to that. There is something to that. Some women do get that message that they are not welcome in comedy, they are not welcome in science and mathematics. And I'm not saying that that's the majority of the cause, because if you're too weak to overcome people who aren't welcoming to you in the community, try fucking gaming, okay? Everyone fucking hates you all the time, always.
Or try doing physical labor. Like, that's not welcoming because it's physical and labor. But, or, go get a microphone and stand on stage and speak your mind. There's got to be gender equality there. Holy shit. But running a leaf blower, we don't care.
Yeah.
You keep doing that one.
Well, it's even more of a problem. The Gollum effect is even more of a problem because it's understudied due to ethical concerns. Back to the drug thing. A lot of things we can't study in society because we have ethical concerns. Specifically, and here we go. I think this is from Wikipedia again. Specifically, the concern arises in trying to operationalize negative expectations in individuals, which will theoretically result in the lower performance of the individuals. The worry then is that it's possibly harmful, lingering effects on research participants beyond the study due to this manipulation. So essentially, if you're trying to test someone to see if the Gollum effect actually works, that test itself may have long-lasting impacts and psychological results that you don't intend, far-reaching beyond the study. So it's kind of hard to study even from the get-go. I mean, these researchers did these studies in spite of those ethical concerns, and maybe they weren't aware of them at the time.
Trailblazers, getting results.
Yeah,
that's what it takes.
Yeah,
in science.
And I mean, your hope is that you don't permanently damage people when you're testing them. But anyway, it's a big problem because it's even difficult to study. The Gollum effect.
Lowered expectations.
Yeah, lowered expectations that turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, but isn't that the danger of lower expectations? That's the only thing that's wrong with them, right? Lowered expectations that turns into that are self-fulfilling prophecy.
Lowered expectations that become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Absolutely. Okay. I mean, this has affected you personally too, right?
What do you mean?
What are you doing on this podcast?
Yeah, what the hell are you talking about? You did that last week too. Don't you want to talk about addiction?
Oh yeah.
What do you want to know?
By the way, I shouldn't have put that out there without asking you first before the show. Sorry.
I still don't know what you want to know.
Oh, I was just curious if you had any stories to share. That's all I wanted to know.
About addiction?
Yeah, if you wanted to.
I don't even know. I don't even know where to start with that, man.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I don't know how to respond to the. Do I have any experience with lowered expectations?
No, but if someone has lower expectations of you, don't you then fulfill them?
Shit, I have no fucking idea off the top of my head.
I'm basically just going, because the answer is yes. I'm basically just goading you into playing so I can play this clip. Here's the
Where's his dick?
It's not, because you didn't contradict yourself, but here's just something you've said in the past.
Well, I'm 100% sure. If I'm gonna get treated like a criminal, I will behave like a criminal.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There it is. That's exactly the Gollum effect. When you
brought in that clip of me to play to me?
Well, as an example of how it can affect all of us.
Well, I think that effect has been studied in that capacity.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people in the inner cities, are treated and looked at like criminals, and they behave that way, and they think there's a solid connection between that.
Right, right, absolutely. You expect people, and this goes back to the war on drugs. The black thing. You expect people to do drugs or be caught for it because they're incarcerated at a much higher rate. Then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe you get
doesn't according to the stats though, because they do even less.
Yeah, but they get arrested for it more.
Yeah.
And then maybe that leads them down a life of crime. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But the Gollum effect is it can be devastating to people. It's something that you have to be aware of. But it's really difficult because the way that we think about people.
Because a lot of times we're right.
No.
A lot of the times prejudice is right.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Well, okay.
Of course it is.
Stereotypes for sure.
A lot of the times your gut's right. Like, yeah, these kids aren't going to do well. Well, they probably won't.
No, that's literally the Gollum effect that I'm describing. You can't have, it's really dangerous to have those expectations of people because they become self-fulfilling.
Well, maybe they're just fulfilling, and everyone's aware of it.
Well, that's also a possibility, but we know, I mean, based on that study, well, look, it's much easier to study the Pygmalion effect. They're very similar. And the Pygmalion effect doesn't have long-lasting, damaging effects on the participants. You can have higher expectations of students and then see that they fulfill those expectations. Now, that's not a perfect study because some of those students may happen to be higher aptitude just by chance you included in your study. So you may have accidentally selected a few that were going to do well anyway. However, it's unlikely that the 20% that you randomly selected, all of them do better.
Now, what if you have a really bright kid, but they still can't achieve their parents' expectations?
Well, I got a problem for you coming up, buddy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But anyway, that's my problem, guys. The Gollum effect.
The problem too is about students who are really like, what are their accomplishments? They did it okay on a test. Like, oh, who fucking cares?
Well, but that's all you can do at that age. I mean, you can only do what are you going to do? You're not going to win the Nobel Prize at that age, so.
And that's also the way they're able to study kids is in elementary school. But they have found this to be the case in organizational structures as well, like at work.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be interesting.
Absolutely. At work, they found these same things. When bosses randomly select certain employees with certain expectations, they challenge them. They step up to that challenge. That's actually what one of my bosses did a long time ago. Well, I've only had 2 jobs, so you know which one. Yeah, I know.
Oh, wait a minute. Keep going. I'll find it.
Yeah. So anyway. I'm not gonna say the story. I should just say shit on you.
So interesting and important.
Fuck you. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm done talking about it.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna relate it to a real personal story that could have really drove the point home. Now you're gonna play some shitty sound drop.
I don't know why I would play a sound drop. You're not talking about anything specifically. There's nothing to play a sound drop.
All right.
Was that your problem?
Yeah.
Okay. My last problem is ducking autocorrect.
What?
It changes fucking to ducking.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Who's ever needed to say ducking? Who in their life has ever needed to say ducking?
Over. What are you hunting? What are you doing this afternoon?
I'm going ducking. That's what I'm doing.
What are you doing when a ball's coming at your head?
I duck.
Yeah. But what's the act of ducking?
Yeah, right. I mean, who has ever said that?
Yeah.
How fucked is autocorrect that it ever replaces anything with ducking?
I hate it.
No one's ever said it. No one in the history of the world.
Yeah.
You could throw any word in there. Probably used it more than ducking.
Mm-hmm. My fucking phone. I never type shifting. I'm never shifting.
My ducking phone.
Yeah. I'm never having a shifty day, asshole.
Yeah.
Guess what kind of day I'm having? It's not fucking shifty.
Shoddy. I'm gonna go take a shot. Actually, that's 50-50.
What are you doing? I'm taking a shot right now.
now.
Yeah, for you, Dick. Your phone is so confused with that one. Because sometimes you're doing both.
Yeah, he types them equally.
Yeah.
Doesn't know which one to choose.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If I've been taking shots, I don't care. That's the other thing with autocorrect. Every time it fucks it up, I know what I meant. I know the person on the other end knows what I meant, but I feel compelled to correct it so I don't look like an idiot.
Right.
Yeah.
Or somehow I'm not disrespecting them, right? Like I'm like a mafia Don all of a sudden. Like, no disrespect, Don Maddox. I meant to say fucking. I'm gonna correct that. I would never let a computer talk to you in lieu of me. Like, right? That's this weird thought process.
I've turned off, thankfully you're able to do this in the Google dictionary, but you can turn off filters for safe words. So thankfully, my phone mostly gets fucking correctly, especially even during voice to text, it gets fucking done correctly. Yeah, I'll do it right now. I'll talk. I'm going to talk and record, and we'll see how much of this it gets correctly. But go on, Dick. What's your other problem with voice to text? Or I'm sorry, autocorrect.
No, it's autocorrect.
Ducking autocorrect.
Yeah, that there's no cursing in it. And okay, here's the other bad part about autocorrect.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's no way for me to know if life would be better without it. Like, I use it and I hate it, but I'm afraid to turn it off because what if the alternative is like, what if I'm so bad at typing it just turns into like a bunch of Cubert speak when I'm trying to talk, right?
Well,
I don't know. I don't know. What do I have to conduct my own experiments on the UI of my phone to see which one's worse? I don't want to do that.
Well,
I just deal with it. It's right on. This is what you remember that Louis C.K. thing when he said,
"Watch me jerk off."
Yeah, to those girls that he allegedly imprisoned in his hotel room. Yeah, do you remember that? It was okay. His part of his routine was like how everyone's spoiled, and this thing's beaming in from space, right? You should have more respect for the technology in front of you. That was his thing.
Right.
Fuck that. No, this shoddy, shitty technology, this ducking autocorrect, it rides that thin line between totally making me insane and being useful. Like, I don't know what side of the fence I'm on. Online tracking, pizza tracking, useful. 100% useful. So useful I can't even see it down on the usefulness graph, right? Autocorrect, right on the line. Right on the line of zero. I don't know which side it's on. Is this fucking with me or is this helping me?
I'm on the slightly positive side of it.
Well, we all are. That's why we have it on.
That's
but
right.
I'm too afraid. What if we're not?
Well, let's experiment. Right now, I'm going to record, going forward, the rest of this episode in autocorrect and see how much of it translates.
In voice to text?
Yeah, right now, I'm doing voice to text, and I'm going to see how much of this translates correctly for autocorrect. And we're going to post this on the website, but the rest of this conversation, we're going to see how much of it translates.
It also takes all the personality out of your texting.
Yeah.
If I want to text like, whoa, right? It just turns into whoa.
Yeah.
Like, well, I already fucking sent it. Now I'm not, what am I going to say to this person, whoa, again? Now I look desperate, right? So I guess we're all stuck with these muted reactions.
And it never gets the right number of ha's in there. Because I never want to, like, if I send
right.
H-A-H-A-H, that's usually, like, something I actually chuckled at. But it adds extra H-A's, like, it makes me look like an idiot.
What, am I
like,
flirting with this guy
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
I sent so many ha's?
Do you
What
think
the hell?
that's not the funniest fucking thing I've ever read,
No.
idiot. My fucking phone, dipshit. This guy's gonna think less of me now because of the number of H's you added.
He's gonna feed me all of his shit now.
Yeah,
He's gonna
oh
say,
my
oh,
God.
here's you really like that joke?
yeah.
Here's all my 1 and 2 material. You're gonna love this, you fucking pig.
Yeah.
Eat this slop. I gotta block. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Now you're never getting another ha. You know what else it does with the ha's? Separates them. Ha, space, ha.
Yes.
It's like, what the fuck? Am I a computer?
Yeah,
Am
like
I a comic book?
Like
what?
a robot pretending to be human, like trying to act like a human. Like, we know you, robot. No human adds spaces in their ha's. They're not distinct. I know they sound like distinct syllables to your shitty fucking computer brain, but they're not, asshole.
And somebody programmed that.
Yeah.
They're like, well, how do I go ha ha ha? Ha, space, ha.
Yeah.
Like that programmer sat there and did that.
This is by far the most Seinfeldy episode we've ever done. Can you imagine those? How many episodes there would be if texting existed in their world?
There's a modern Seinfeld Twitter account that does that. It's pretty funny.
Oh, that's right. I've heard of that.
How about auto-correcting things into sex? How does it miss fucking and shit, but it will throw a sex in there when I didn't want it to be? Look, when I type, if I want sex to be in a text, I typed it. I don't want you throwing it in there. Like, you sure you didn't mean come here for some sex at the office? No, I didn't. Well, now I gotta explain something that we both know. We both know why it happened, but I gotta compulsively explain it. Like I have this, like I'm the only one on earth in the office with a magical device that fucks up my text. Everybody has it.
Yeah, sorry, Mom. I'll call you in a sex. Wow. Oh man.
My mom sent me a text one time for an In-N-Out hamburgers order.
Yeah.
What's the style you get at In-N-Out? There's they got
ducking style.
No, they got a bunch of different
Animal style.
Yeah.
Animal style. What did I get from Mom? Mom, text me your order. I don't want to remember it, write it down. I don't want you thinking of just text it to me. Yeah, Dick, I'd like a cheeseburger, anal style. That's it. I'm just driving home. Driving home. I'm not even getting the hamburgers. I'm never eating it In-N-Out again. Thanks a lot, autocorrect. I'm pretty sure if somebody wanted something replaced with anal, they would have written anal in the text.
Right.
That's not a replaceable word.
You know, Dick, so we're having a lot of fun with this. We're doing, but a lot of this is voice to text, too. So voice to text, but autocorrect specifically.
All mine's autocorrect.
What, you typed anal instead of animal?
No, she
did. She
must have gotten close to animal, but like your bet with the Voyager, which one's closer? The thing said, well, I'm pretty close to animal, but I'm also pretty close to anal. I'll just go with anal. Fuck it. Well, equally likely that someone would have used this word.
Yeah.
Pretty close to fucking. Also pretty close to ducking. Probably meant ducking.
Probably ducking.
Probably a lot of. Listen, this phone is perfectly suited for a nuclear holocaust when everybody's ducking and covering all the time. What are you doing? Ducking and covering and shooting the shit.
You know what the problem is, Dick? It's lawyers. Because they don't want Google... Yeah, the lawyers are the problem. Because they don't want... Google doesn't want to accidentally put in the word fucking when someone actually meant ducking or anything else. They're playing on the side, they'll be like,
really?
Our program's not good enough, to figure out fucking...
Sorry, lawyers?
Yeah, I think they're covering their ass. so that if someone doesn't accidentally send a text to someone, to their boss, and get fired for it, just in the off chance that they went ducking.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Ducking
Smart.
lawyers, man.
You gotta duck lawyers.
Ducking lawyers.
Anyway, good prompting.
I read a bunch of articles. I tried to research this. Of course, a bunch of apologists saying that I'm wrong. Oh, the reason that you hate this is because there's something wrong with you. I doubt it. When anyone gives me that answer, I doubt it instantly. Like, well, what are you getting paid by autocorrect? Are you? Does it call you every night? Did it leave your pet's head in your bed? Why the duck are you defending autocorrect?
Big autocorrect.
Yeah,
Paying them off.
what is wrong with you?
What's an angle shit? You know what it is? It's fucking iPhone users. It's always touch screens with these assholes, because without touch screens, before that shit, if you guys can remember back in the day when we had fucking keyboards that you could feel and you could type quickly and it was correct all the time, you didn't need this fucking shitty autocorrect all the time for every fucking word. And that's why your batteries are dead, shitheads. Yeah, do I have an iPhone 5 charger? No, fuck you. Turn off autocorrect, get a fucking keyboard.
Yeah, whoever invented autocorrect should be shit.
How long have you saving that?
Just now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I swear that it wasn't even had anything to do with what he just said. You
Yeah.
just thought of that right now?
Yeah, I was just thinking reap shit and ducking. I'm not defending my joke to you. Fuck you.
Oh man, this transcript's gonna be hilarious, I think. Oh, fantastic.
I read some shit about autocorrect making people stupider.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I don't buy that. It was like a third of people can't spell. A third of people couldn't spell definitely and separate.
What do they spell defiantly?
Well, I don't know, but I bet they knew when I meant fucking and when I meant ducking.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what? I think it's just a really bad Markov chain. They have these Markov chain models that try to predict what you're saying in context, and they're able to. It's basically how if you guys have ever used the app SwiftKey. SwiftKey does it by creating these models that look at your text and then try to predict based on context and other things you've written in the past what you meant to say. And mine is actually surprisingly good. This isn't autocorrect, but it is auto phrasing. So it suggests the next phrase that I'm. There came a point a long time ago when I was on.
Does it
Tinder.
suggest I'm a writer? Oh, you can put I'm to say a writer.
You want to see what it suggests?
Yeah,
This is what, here,
I would
I'll show
love to
you.
see that.
I'll show you. You'll love this. You'll love this. Hold on.
Yeah, if you type in I'm and the next word isn't the, I'll be very upset.
Dick, I typed in I'm an, and then I want you to read what the 3 suggestions are.
Great, probably. Let's see it.
Underappreciated genius.
Hold on.
Oh, author,
Uh-huh.
asshole,
Uh-huh.
and idiot.
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm an author. He says I'm an author as much as he says I'm an idiot.
Phenomenal.
Or asshole. It says I'm an asshole, author, idiot. Those are the 3 suggestions when I type in
What if
I'm
you just
an.
type in I'm? Late? Probably late.
No,
Or
and
running
dickhead.
late. Oh, it's not an exaggeration.
The suggestions are I'm and then not and then at and then sorry. Let's see what it says right after not. I'm not.
I'm sorry.
It says
You know
I'm
he
not.
never says that.
Fuck you, Sean. I say it all the fucking time. I'm a great apologizer, shithead. I brought in people who are bad at apologies because I'm good at them. I figured it out. I know how to
You
apologize.
figured out how to manipulate your apologies so they're perfect?
No, I'm a good apologizer. It says, though, I'm not sure if you're waiting for this file from me or if you're getting me the 3D renders so I can composite them in the video.
That's your most used sentence.
I guess that's my most used sentence. I'm not sure if you're waiting for this file from me or if you're getting me the 3D renders so you can composite them in this video.
That's my problem.
Yeah. Good problem, dude. I'll post that transcript. It's ridiculous on the website. But anyway, guys, we ran out of time. I'm not going to get to my problem this week. I'll bring it in next week. It's a good one, though. So,
happy 420 to all the libertarians out there. Happy States' Rights Day.
Oh my gosh. Look, yeah, the important takeaway is legalize drugs so that we can regulate them, make sure they're clean, you're getting the product that you're supposed to have. My problem this week is the Gollum effect.
Wait, why are you laughing?
I
Because
don't
it's the
know.
war on drugs and ducking autocorrect.
I got it. Thanks for listening.
Why is that funny? Explain it to me.
He's talking about regulation and libertarianism.
Yeah.
Other conflicting ideas.
Oh, is that what? Yeah, everyone just thinks that libertarians just hate all regulation.
Well, no
It's like a
libertarian
big,
will
like-
go on the record saying which regulations they're in favor of.
Well, drugs is a big thing to regulate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today's show is brought to you by Audible, who has more than 180 them.
Auroras all the way down. 100 auroras in a row.
show is brought to you by Harry's. Please visit harrys.com and use the promo code BIGGESTPROBLEM to save $5 off your first purchase.
Feeling that it's done.
Welcome to the biggest problem in the universe, the show where we discuss every problem in the universe from Muammar Gaddafi to spilled coffee. With over 6 million downloads, this is the only show where you decide what should or shouldn't be on the biggest of problems. I'm Maddox, with me is Dick.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
And Sean, our audio engineer. Welcome back.
Deleting with abandon today.
You guys are starting right in on this shit.
Deleting security deposits, deleting Maddox's coffee all over his carpet.
Yeah. I mean, the coffee's still there if I get a sponge.
2 deletions, 1 stone.
All right, guys.
Sorry about the coffee, but it is funny.
Don't apologize. Makes you look weak.
Sean,
fuck his coffee.
Sean goes,
and fuck his carpet.
Sean goes to get water, and he goes, "You want anything?" I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I would like a large iced Americano. That'd be really nice. That'd be really good. Yeah. But guys, moving on. The biggest problem in the universe from last week was the war on drugs.
Oh, that's good.
Hey, there you go. You get a ding and a clap for that, Dick. And
The audience should get that. Please give us 1,000 dings and claps.
No, it's a good problem. And then ducking autocorrect, and then the Gollum effect. All came in. I would say the Gollum effect should come above ducking autocorrect. I think it was a little bit too high concept for people. They didn't quite understand it.
I mean, the Lord of the Rings was too high concept for people, too. That's true. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
You should have dumbed it down.
Yeah. I should have just made it about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you should have.
Our dipshit, idiot, slow breathing, dullard fans would have eaten that up, just like Guardians of the Galaxy, that garbage movie. People still talk to me about that. They think that I'm a huge fan of the movie. People who
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, people who don't listen. Get out of here.
I thought you brought that in satirically.
No. I
The
got a
folks
comment.
think it was satire.
Do they?
Yeah, that's why I went down so hard. What was your comment?
We need a satire tag. I got a comment from Marco Merdija. Yeah, there's not enough vowels in this name. There's way too many consonants. But he says, I've dropped acid in college at least twice a week. I'm fine. It was a shit ton of fun. Oh, I guess there you go, Marco. I guess Marco's fine, everyone. I guess there's no problem. And then someone commented, Edward says, but you're going to have flashbacks for the rest of your life and holes in your brain. Just ask Maddox, the man who has never done a drug in his life, but he read an article, so he knows what's up.
I don't even think you've read an article about drugs, though. I think all your drug knowledge comes from like Dare in the from like the 30-second bumper at the end of a G.I. Joe cartoon where Sergeant Slaughter comes out and goes, acid will put holes in your brain, kids, the more you know. That is what it sounded like to me.
I mean, that's because that's exactly what it is. I got all my knowledge about drugs from cartoons from the 80s, dickheads. And I got one thing for sure, drugs are for turkeys.
Yeah. We got there was a lot of voicemail.
Oh, I'm sure. Let's hear these rambling dullards prattle on.
I mean, yeah, okay, I'll just start into it.
Before you get into it.
Well, let these guys talk. Come on, you
Yeah,
have an
because I know
hour
what they're
to
gonna say.
Well, then let them say it.
Great.
Don't kill the punchline.
Maddox, you fucking idiot.
Okay.
Where do you get your information on drugs?
I told you, cartoons.
Dragnet from the 70s. LSD, particularly one hit of LSD, will never, ever fucking cause flashbacks. Maybe if you're fucking eating, I don't know, fucking sheets of it at a time, but no, one-time use of LSD will not cause fucking flashbacks.
Okay.
Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know why you're saying all this misinformation. On Bicycle Day, 4/19, the day that LSD was first synthesized by Dr. Albert Hofmann. Fucking incredible.
I
You
knew
just
it.
a second of research.
It's right on the grave. I don't think that's the only grave you'll be pissing on.
Fucking simple thing.
Okay.
You want to hear another one?
I'm not gonna believe that guy any more than I believe you, or less.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
Look,
Why?
unless he comes with some published, peer-reviewed studies, then like he could be going to LSDfree.org.
Okay. Well, maybe this guy will convince you then, Sean.
Right.
Man, Maddox, when you talk about drugs, it's like listening to a creationist talk about evolution. It's just
What do you think of
fucking
that?
painful.
I like that analogy.
What the fuck?
Well, actually.
Ayahuasca is not an opiate.
That's what he's got you on.
Well,
Put
actually.
holes in your brain and like having an acid flashback. It sounds like you think having an acid flashback is just like you instantly think you're on fire. You hop out a window of a 30-story building, splatter all over the fucking ground. That's not the case, man.
I know.
Or do
If
you?
you tried out to ignore
We
it,
don't
like
know.
gigantic
Apparently, I
spaghetti,
could be thinking
and
any
just gave
crazy
it like
thing
one
about
little
drugs.
go, just like one little
Yeah.
tab acid, you would know what the fuck you were talking about.
Yeah. Actually,
But
Maddox.
it's
All right, you paused for too long.
Yeah,
You
I was
responded.
expecting.
I mean, it's full of them.
I know,
You want to hear
I
the first
know.
5 seconds of a couple in a row? I don't want to listen to the whole
Let's hear
thing.
it. Yeah, the fuck you,
Oh.
Maddox.
Holy fuck, Maddox. If you don't know anything about the subject,
I know.
just abstain. Like, if you're gonna try to argue about how drugs hurt you, LSD, is that what you're gonna go with? LSD. You got heroin, you got cocaine, you got meth,
He's got a
and you
point
have
there, don't you think?
possibly the most harmless drug
Okay.
on the
Yeah, I
market.
got it. This is more than 5 seconds.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you did pick LSD over
You did
cocaine,
pick the weakest one.
meth, heroin.
Look, man, the point that I was trying to make, and you could replace whatever drug that you want to make this point true, because it's still true, regardless if I misspoke about the drug. The point is that some drugs are very dangerous and bad for you.
Like
Is that
alcohol.
disputed? Or not?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm talking about illegal. I'm talking about illegal,
like the
like meth,
Paxil.
like heroin,
Okay.
right? Like heavy, hard drugs. They're
Yeah.
bad for you.
They're not good for you.
They're not good for you.
Very few old
Right.
addicts.
They're
Right, that's the
harmful.
point. Now, to the point about LSD chewing holes in your brain or whatever, I looked into it and it sounds like it may be an urban legend.
Definitely.
There are pictures on the internet of brains with holes chewed in them, but they may be due to other complications of things.
They
The
could
people
have,
who are doing
wait,
drugs.
Can I ask, by hole, do you mean a physical hole?
Yes.
Like a brain that has like a Swiss cheese, like
Yeah.
a quantum leap. There's a physical void in the brain.
They are missing a certain type of matter in that brain. You can see it on a CAT scan.
Oh,
on an
CAT
MRI
scan. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Because those CAT scan tests are to show you the sections of the brain that don't have blood in them when you're high.
Right.
Like if you're thinking logically, different parts of your, like if you're responding to religious iconography, different parts of your brain light up. If you're responding to like logical arguments, different parts of your brain light up.
Yeah, it wasn't
You're
that.
looking
It
at
wasn't
like a
that.
baby.
I believe then maybe it was an MRI because it was an old black and white photo. You could see clear dark areas where there was no matter in the brain. But I looked into it and it turns out I think that the people who had that affliction or whatever may have been combining lots of different drugs, may have been an anomaly, may have been a lot of different things. As for the point about the LSD,
They were playing a lot of laser tag. Laser beams shot holes in their brain. That's what I heard.
That does complicate it because a lot of people use multiple drugs recreationally. So
Right.
they also, for a long time, they were trying to study the cancer effects of smoking pot.
Yeah, yeah.
Carcinogens.
Right.
A lot of them smoke cigarettes too, so it skews the potential
but your
results.
point
So
is that
on
drugs
to
are
the
bad.
point. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
some drugs are definitely bad, and they're not. We don't know the full impacts of them. We don't know how to test for them, that sort of thing. If it's in their systems. But to the point of LSD, you can have flashbacks even by using it once. But it is.
I think you're
It
repeating a
is.
myth.
I linked to the source on the website, so check the source. It is exceedingly rare that can happen. But there are people who've died from LSD. There have been complications due to synthetic LSD. There are people who've gone into comas because of LSD. And again, it's not common, but it has happened. It's documented. I linked to it.
Okay, I'm not gonna disagree with any of that for the sake of time. Because I brought in this interesting graph that I want you to look at.
Okay.
Someone, I forget where it was. I think someone in the comments said, because I said nothing's more dangerous than alcohol. Like that was my overall point was there's a big war on drugs, but alcohol's legal and it's the worst one.
Alcohol and cigarettes are terrible.
It's absolutely
They're-
terrible.
yeah, they're the
Both
worst.
legal because everyone loves them and everyone understands them. Like you understand what alcohol and cigarettes do to you, but you don't understand what drugs do. Right?
Alcohol also has a use outside of just recreationally getting fucked up.
Getting chicks fucked up. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I was talking
Cleaning
about.
shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, cooking, cleaning, antibacterial properties of alcohol, lots of reasons, lots of legitimate uses for alcohol.
What about tobacco?
I don't know of any.
Probably not.
No.
And then can you sterilize shit by blowing a menthol on it? I don't think so, right? Okay. Anyway, someone has done stuff
Yeah.
about their harmful. Because everyone thought there's well, crack's way worse than alcohol.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. Here is a graph. I'm going to post it. I don't know what that graph is study. Just, take a study, look at it. You don't agree with it, whatever. These are all the drugs linked by their harmfulness with the user and the people around them. Alcohol, hour or so together.
I believe that.
I mean, this doesn't.
Because they tend to use it over a longer period of time. Like crack can take you down quick. Meth can take you down really quick.
Yep.
Yeah,
I thought the graph was interesting and statistical. In my argument about rights and whatever, I probably overlooked this very interesting graph that shows alcohol is way more harmful than the other drugs.
It doesn't have a source here, though. What's the source?
Oh, I chopped that out of the report. It's a big report.
Okay.
I didn't want to bring in the PDF and scroll through. It's very interesting, though.
So number one, according to harm it causes to users and harm it causes to others.
Right.
Alcohol, it causes the most harm to others, believe it or not. About 2/3 of the harm it causes is to others as opposed to the user. And I think it is the only drug on this list like that. The next closest is heroin, but heroin causes about almost 50-50 harm to users and harm to others. And way off the charts is methamphetamine, which causes the most harm to users and hardly any harm to
anybody
others.
else.
Yeah. And then mushrooms. Mushrooms causes all harm to users, but it's really low on the scale.
Very
like
low.
6,
It's not. It's with LSD at the very end.
Yeah, I mean,
They don't
I tried
kill
mushrooms,
people.
but to the point of like people saying, "Hey Max, you've never done drugs, so you can't comment." It's like, guys, I've never had a broken arm, but I can comment on broken arms. I've never had.
What do you
Look,
mean?
there's certain things you have to experience, I think, to talk about them.
No.
No, there are no certain things, but not that's probably not one of them. If there's enough studies, peer-reviewed, repeatable, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
You
What
can
about
say
spilling
that's-
coffees? Do you think you have to do that in order to comment on it? Because I haven't done that. I have no idea what it's like
It
to spill
helps.
someone's coffee.
It helps because you don't understand the inner turmoil that causes unless you've actually done
Oh,
it.
man.
Now that would cause inner turmoil, except it was pneumatic, so I really feel good about myself.
No, you don't. You
Fuck
feel
you,
like
Sean.
a dick. You're a dick.
Yeah, what a big old dickhead.
Anyway.
I got a comment here from Leo Lombardozzi. Now, I want to say two things here. I want to comment. I'll mention his
He
comment
gets
here.
interrupted before his comment. Let's hear it.
I want to comment about what he said here, and I also want to comment on the whole drug war problem, because I thought it was fascinating. I did more research after the episode. But Leo says, black people are statistically less likely to do drugs and are more likely to be arrested for doing drugs. And then he says, arrested for doing drugs or arrested for dealing drugs. Now, that's a point I feel like...
both.
Yeah, both, of course.
Yeah,
of course, both. But turns out that white people are still arrested more. They make up a higher percentage of dealers than black people. White people,
Sure.
By straight
Well,
numbers,
by
of
straight
course.
numbers.
But
Yeah.
here's the
Not
percentages.
maybe, or,
Yeah.
or percentages.
Well, here's the percentages. White is 48%, blacks 45%. So
That's
still
not bad.
5%. But blacks, for representing only 15% of the population, that is overrepresented in the percentage of drug dealers. And again, the reason there could be that they are arrested, they're incarcerated 10 times higher rate than whites. But then on to the point about the war on drugs, I think that we kind of glossed over this, but without doing real justice to this. But the drug epidemic, the war on drugs, really, it was kicked off with Nixon and went into high gear with Reagan. Reagan passed the Drug Abuse Act, right? And this Drug Abuse Act, I had no idea was so nefarious, because what it did is it created a penalty for having crack cocaine as opposed to the more pure form?
Cocaine.
Cocaine.
No, it's not more pure. It's just in different form. It's a powder.
Powder, okay.
Crack is solid. Cocaine is powder.
Right, and who's more likely to do crack?
Well, I mean, I know you can make this a race thing. Like, obviously, black people
It's
have
not just
crack
race.
more.
Yeah, it's true, but it's also, crack is more affordable.
Oh, that sounds racist.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, go ahead.
I mean, that's
Keep
what the Nixon aid essentially said the war on drugs was
It's racially motivated.
impetus for.
Sure,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that could be an addition to that, because crack is lower income drug, and then cocaine is the higher income version of that. And the penalty for cocaine is much smaller. For 500 grams of cocaine, the penalty is the same for even having, I think, 5 grams of crack.
Look, I get rid of all the penalties is my motto. You know this.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying might be true, but it's also a hell of a lot easier to sell crack than it is cocaine. Like, and I don't want to make it a racist thing, because I don't know if that's true.
Wait, why is that?
Because it's solid.
Oh.
Like, you want to rock? Here you go. Here you go. What am I going to carry a bag of flour home and buying enough cocaine? It's not as easy.
I found
it's very easy to separate crack.
I found a dime bag of cocaine in my neighborhood. No joke.
How do you know?
I didn't know. I was with a friend who pointed it out.
Because I carry my flour around in dime bags all the time.
Oh, do you?
Just to trick cops.
Yeah.
So they'll look stupid. And then when I get arrested, and they'll test it. I know this is, motherfucker, it's flour.
All right, let's go, Masterson. Out of that slammer. Put your pants back on.
Can we move on to something
Let's
else,
move on.
please? A lot of people took offense to some inaccuracies you had last week regarding Pokemon.
What did
Here.
These fucking nerds.
Hey Maddox, I'm just calling to let you know that Geodude evolves into Graveler.
I know,
and
idiot.
Graveler evolves into Golem.
No shit, you fucking moron.
After
It's the final form, shithead.
Somebody else.
Maddox.
Or, like the internet. You have, the DS version. The point is that you're a tremendous fucking pokey casual. Or, yeah.
A pokey casual.
He's mad because you missed the intermediary.
Yeah, I skipped a step because it's a fucking podcast, shithead. It's a radio program where not everyone knows what the fuck Pokemon is. It's a throwaway joke that was a sentence, you fucking nerds. You ruin everything.
You gotta show your work, man. It's Common Core jokes on this show. You gotta show how you got there.
All right, Dick, anything else?
Graveler, leaving Graveler out now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, let's move on, guys. This is the problem
Did I
brought in.
mention that my man took offense to your LSD thing too?
Oh, I'm
that,
sure.
The 10 minutes after the episode launched, I get a text from my man saying, "What the fuck? You're sending me all this info on LSD. I haven't heard from this guy forever."
You know,
I know you haven't mentioned your man in 40 episodes.
No, I don't want to say it. I'm just saying that boom, that's what he cares about.
Look, but the argument that it hasn't happened to me is idiotic.
What do you mean?
Hey, I've taken acid and nothing's ever happened to me. That's a stupid argument.
Yeah, it's a gambler's fallacy. I drove down the street without a seatbelt. I didn't get in a wreck. Good job, shithead. You lucked out, I guess.
Fuck, I had a neurotic story, but we spent so much time talking about LSD. I'll play it next week.
We're still pretty early. You want to do it?
No. Go ahead.
Look, guys. You know those obnoxious dudes who, all throughout high school, I had these friends who were huge stoners, and they'd always pull you aside, tell you the real talk about they're stoner proselytizers, they're stoner preachers, they're marijuana preachers, and they're always telling you, hey man, actually it's not true. The Reefer Madness documentary is a big propaganda piece, and blah 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 blah. And here's the thing, I get it, I believe you, just go away. I don't care. I just don't care. And because I shit on so many drugs and so many different groups, now I'm hearing from all of them.
Yeah, that's what you deserve.
Yeah.
That's what you get, man.
This is the hell I've created.
I mean, what else do they have to do all day?
Nothing, apparently, except call on this fucking podcast and leave comments. Shitty comments. Guys, this was the problem I brought in last week. We didn't have time for it, but my biggest problem in the universe this week is helicopter parents. Yeah, helicopter parents.
I wish you had that coffee back so I could spit all of it out of my mouth right now. You're criticizing parents?
Yeah, why not?
Because one of your problems was people with no kids criticizing parents.
No child parent advice. That was the problem.
Let's hear it.
I'm not giving parenting advice.
Okay.
These are other parents who've given parenting advice. Look, let's define the terms here. First of all, helicopter parent was first used in Dr. Haim Ginot's 1969 book, Parents and Teenagers by Teens Who Said Their Parents. Man, the sentence is written so... I know, it's... Wow! Anyway, it's basically parents who hover around them like helicopters. The term became popular enough to become a dictionary entry in 2011. They're basically parents who hover around you all the time. Now, what could possibly be the harm in that?
Well, the kid never experiences anything for themselves. They're kept safe, right?
Sean, fucking right on the nose. That's exactly what it is. Reason parents become helicopter parents is because a lot of times they're just afraid. They have fear of dire consequences. These are the reasons according to parents.com. They have fear of dire consequences, low grades, not making the team, not getting a job their parents want their children to get. I mean, think about that. Your parents are basically projecting their fears onto you. They want you to be exactly what they expect you to be, and that's why they hover around you and micromanage everything in your life.
Okay, so let me just drop this in. I don't want to hijack your problem, but I feel like you need some kind of emotional connection here. That's not the whole story. Projecting your fears onto the kids.
Yeah.
You got these little. I have two nephews now. The little one just started walking around, so now he's a terrorist.
Wait, you got a new one?
Yes.
Oh,
Now
hey.
he's a year old.
Oh.
A year ago. Yeah.
Well, hey.
Don't worry about it. This I don't expect those kinds of
I didn't
things
get a fucking card.
No. So now that he's walking around, he's joining his older brother in being a little terrorist. There's a lot more to it than projecting fears onto them, I think. That's what I'm trying to.
Well, they're not doing it intentionally.
I'm not done with this list.
Go
There
ahead.
are other
Go
reasons
ahead.
people
Go ahead.
become helicopter parents. Feelings of anxiety, worries about the economy, job market, relationship prospects. These are projected onto the child. And these aren't my words, this is from parents.com. Overcompensation. Adults who felt unloved or neglected as a child start to overcompensate with their own children. And it sometimes creeps into adulthood. Helicopter parents think that because they pay the bills, they're entitled to know what's going on at all times with their adult children as well. And it goes on. There's an example from Psychology Today. But what do you say about that, Dave? Those are the three main reasons that parents.com lists that parents become helicopter parents.
I think that's a weird way of looking at it. Like, I guess it makes me wonder what is a helicopter parent. Like, those are all bad things, you could say.
Well, there are people who are way too over-involved, overprotective, over nosy in their children's lives.
And they also make the child.
It's hard to say where to stop, though. Like, do you have any experience with kids
Do I?
to that degree? Like, at any age?
What do you mean? I've never had a kid, so no.
Are you around them at all?
I've been
Ever?
around kids, yeah.
Like, not kids that you care about.
Yeah.
Kids that are important. to
Yeah,
you.
there have been kids that I've cared about.
Okay.
I think there's been kids that you've tolerated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so
That's it.
too. I don't say that this isn't a problem. What do you mean?
I feel like you're about to tell me something that's going to make me think you're a helicopter parent.
Oh no, I can just easily understand how the frog boils slowly, right? Like you have to watch over them so carefully that like letting them go in stages, like imagine like a target, like you're shooting an arrow at a target or a taser at a target. The bullseye is that's where you start with them. You're hovering over them all the time, but as they grow up, like making the target bigger, giving them more room to go fuck up on their own. I imagine it's very difficult. Like it's very difficult for me as an uncle to do that. Like when I see the kids fucking around and doing something maybe a little dangerous or kind of being assholes, I'm like, man, every instinct in me is wanting to get up to correct this behavior, but you gotta just let them. First of all, I'm not their parents, so it's none of my business. But that's not true all the time. But you also, it's very difficult to let them go out and fuck up on their own. Now, I'm sure you're talking about extreme cases on this article, but I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. How have you been around kids?
I've been around kids, but I think that fundamentally, I believe in the philosophy that I was raised with, which is let them fuck up and hurt themselves sometimes.
Look how well he turned out.
Yeah. It's
great.
very simplistic to say let them fuck up. So, like, let me give you an example. You've got, let's say a small child, and they're playing with their cousins or their friends, and you notice that your kid's being a little too aggressive and not sharing. Right? Like, deciding when you intervene on that is not answered by your let them hurt themselves principle.
No, but that's not an example of where helicopter parenting would even come into play.
Oh, but it is, because you could get in there every time you perceive them being selfish or maybe shoving too much of it. You could swoop in there and grab them and reprimand them. Like, you can control everything that they do. But I don't think that's good. I think that's what you're bringing in. That's not good. But there's definitely, it's a gray area.
Well,
Like,
here's what it says. According to Psychology Today, it said that costs are so great because this is, again, talking about parents who feel like they own their children because they pay the bills. Costs are so great that schooling is an investment. They're adult children, rather. Schooling is an investment, and as if some magical amount of money trips a switch in their brain, it's okay for them to rob their kids of any degree of self-sufficiency. The researchers find the inappropriate, anxiety-driven parenting tactics not only compromise the child's autonomy, mastery, and personal growth, they often reflect a critical attitude by parents who praise their children when they do well but withdraw affection subtly or overtly when they don't bring home that A. It's known in the psych biz as parental conditional regard. So if you don't fulfill their expectations they have for you, they will withdraw their affection from you.
Yeah.
That's incredibly psychologically damaging. And there's an article on KSL.com. It talks about how bad helicopter parenting can be. It says here that award-winning journalist and author David Kushner wrote a book about it. He says Kushner's own theory is that things start to change after what he called the perfect storm for fostering the sphere, like where helicopter parenting came from. Because it wasn't a phenomenon until the mid to late 80s, and it's been a problem ever since. It says, first, 6-year-old Eaton Patz disappeared in 1979 while walking to school in New York City's Soho district. I think because it was such a mystery and because it was so captivating that it really penetrated the world of the media, which was in New York, said Kushner. It became a drama, and not to be crass, but it sold newspapers. So this story, I guess from 1979 of a kid being kidnapped, I guess was the O.J. Simpson story of the time.
Yeah.
And all these parents started worrying about it. And, I mean, statistically speaking, if your kid gets lost and runs into a stranger on the street, they're probably going to be okay. The crime rate across the board is something like 0.3 per capita, 0.4 per capita. It's ridiculously low.
And most kids are abducted by someone they know. I believe.
That doesn't make the fear less, Sean.
No, it doesn't, but
That doesn't
same thing
help.
with the media, like you're talking about. Every parent out there thinks that there's a fair likelihood that their kid may get abducted if they're playing in the front yard.
Yeah, and I've shared the philosophy of, I think Louis C.K. said this, but your kid's just not that attractive. Like, most kids just aren't that attractive. They're not hot enough to molest. Your kid is fucking ugly. But no, but here's the thing.
I really disagree with the way this conversation is going. I really
You think they
strongly
are hot
disagree
enough?
that children are in danger, in my opinion. Like,
Get out.
so many kids are abused and molested.
No, they're
so
not.
many.
No, they're not. It's a minority.
Oh my
it's a
God.
huge. It's a very, very small minority.
But again, you think a small minority is 2%.
Yeah.
That's an incredible amount of abuse.
That's,
If that's
by
true, I'm not-
definition,
Talk
that's a
percentage.
minority.
Yeah,
No
well,
shit, it's a
yeah.
minority, but it's not a scoffable minority. Like
No.
it's a mathematical minority only. It's not a moral minority.
Well, no
That's
one's
an
saying that.
You are by trivializing it.
No. I'm not saying. Look, I'm not. I think it's trivializing. It's first of all, it's causing more damage than good by fear-mongering the statistic that 2% or 1% or whatever. I'm just saying
We don't
all
know.
across
What
the
is
board.
it?
I'm saying all across the board per capita. Per capita means the number of people per 100,000, right? So per capita, the likelihood of you experiencing a crime when you go out into the world in the United States, on average, is like less than 1.
But you're saying
So-
experience a crime.
Yeah,
You mean
but
that means assault, that means rape, that means murder, that means burglary, like any kind of crime, it's less than 1.
the amount of reported crimes against children is so astronomically low. Like,
Yeah,
go
sure,
ahead.
sure. Like, I don't care if it's like 1 million to 1 if you're the one.
Guys, of course, look, child molestation and child abuse is one of the most heinous
Way higher
crimes.
than a million to one.
Oh no, I know the odds are higher than that.
Well, look, it's one of the most heinous crimes. I don't think it's so prevalent that you have to worry about your child wandering into the street or going over to a neighbor's house. You know what?
You should absolutely worry about that.
Absolutely not.
I just have a hard time even taking that seriously from someone who has no kids or kids that they've ever had to protect. Like,
You've
what
never
if
had any kids, and you've never had to protect any
I'm
kids.
constantly around my nephews.
That's not your kid.
No shit, Maddox.
But you still have those kind of parental
Oh,
instincts.
No,
Or
you want to protect them.
Yes.
That's part of your tribe. It's very easy for children to get taken advantage of. Like, writing it off as this mathematical unlikelihood,
Yeah.
to me, is okay. It's parents are fear-mongering, whatever, but way too many kids get abused, in my opinion. Looking out for them is not helicopter parenting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you are constantly worried about your kid going over to a neighbor's house and then coming home molested, look, it's just unlikely to occur.
It can make, parents take it to the extreme. It
Yeah.
can make that kid really fearful.
And there we go, Sean. There's the rub.
It should be.
Because here's what happens. Here are the consequences
You
of
ever
helicopter
heard, you ever heard
parenting.
the song "Mother" by Pink Floyd? It's basically a helicopter parent.
No.
Well, what are the consequences?
Here are the consequences from parents.com. It says your kids get a sense of entitlement. That right there, to me, is one of the worst fates of anyone, having a fucking
Except
sense of
getting
entitlement.
molested.
Well, yeah, one of the worst. Children who have always had their social, academic, and athletic lives adjusted by their parents to best fit their needs can become accustomed to always having their way, and thus they develop a sense of entitlement. They become entitled shitheads.
Yeah, they're like the center of the universe.
Broken fucking people. Undeveloped life skills. More consequences of helicopter parenting. Parents who always tie shoes, clear plates, pack lunches, launder clothes, and monitor school progress even after their children are mentally and physically capable of doing the task prevent their children from mastering these skills themselves. Decreased self-confidence and self-esteem. The main problem with helicopter parenting is that it backfires, says Dr. Ann Dogwood, a licensed psychologist. She says the underlying message is that the parent's over-involvement sends to kids is that my parent doesn't trust me to do this on my own. And this leads to a lack of confidence. So they're insecure, they lack confidence, they have underdeveloped life skills, they have a sense of entitlement, and it goes on. They get underdeveloped coping skills. If the parent is always there to clean up after the child's mess or prevent the problem in the first place, how does the child ever learn to cope with loss, disappointment, or failure? Studies have found that helicopter parenting can make children feel less competent in dealing with the stresses of life on their own. And then it increases anxiety in the child. The list goes on and on. A study from the University of Mary Washington has shown that overparenting is associated with higher levels of child anxiety and depression. I mean, you're fucking up the kid's life. Yeah, you know what? There's a 1 in a 100,000 chance, maybe less than that, 1/2 in 100,000 chance, maybe 200,000 chance that your child could get molested by wandering over your neighbor's house. That's an awful fucking.
What if it's 1 in 100?
Hopefully.
Well, what if it's 1 in 10? I mean, I don't know. You're just throwing out random numbers out there.
So are
It's
you.
1 in 100,000. No, those are the odds.
The odds that your kid gets molested is 1 in 100,000.
It's really rare.
Is it 1 in 100,000 or is it really rare?
All crimes across the board. Look, pedophilia itself would be in the millions, Dick.
Didn't we say it was 2% or 3% or something like that?
No, I mean I know you said that, but I don't know where you pulled that number from.
Oh no, well, I mean that was just a guess. Catholic Church is something like 6%.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right. So what were you gonna say?
The point is that helicopter parenting, the consequences of it are really dire. They're really extreme. When you stifle your kid's choice, his or her freedom of expression, they become entitled, they become anxious, they get depressed, they become less self-reliant, they become basically broken human beings. Is that what you want? I mean, what's the alternative here? Yeah, you know what? Abuse against children is awful and heinous. It's one of the worst things that could ever happen. We should absolutely prevent it. But not at the expense of ruining their lives.
Yeah. Look, what is helicopter parenting then?
Well,
like
like
you
Dick
went
said-
through a whole list of things that you shouldn't do. Don't do their laundry. Don't do their laundry is going to make them not prepared for life. I doubt that. I bet a lot of people
Okay.
who've had their laundry done that aren't all fucked up. Like this helicopter parenting just seems like a buzzword to get people outraged about how entitled everyone is. Yeah, I get it. Everyone's entitled. I hate it too. Everybody wants their safe space. Everybody wants everything the way they do it. It's like a poison in America. But I don't know. I don't know that we're in a culture where these kinds of articles and buzzwords like affluenza have to be cranked out constantly by an outrage machine. I don't know that there's this helicopter parenting phenomenon that's ruining an entire generation. Seems like some people just are a little smothering with their kids.
Yeah,
Well, you're playing semantic games. What are you gonna say, Sean?
I mean, I've seen what I would consider to be overparenting, where it's like, God, that you are really hovering over that kid. But you have to define what really constitutes overparenting.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
such a wide.
it could be
swath
anything.
of gray.
No, but I'll tell you what. Helicopter parenting has another consequence. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is just from parents.com, but I heard another.
Where's the line drawn?
Well, I'll
what
tell you.
becomes helicopter parenting?
Doing your laundry, apparently.
Well, no, overdoing their laundry. Like if you do their laundry sometimes, or until they're self-sufficient. But there are
Probably a
people who do
combination
laundry
of
forever.
things.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
I told you what's wrong with that. It makes them entitled. It makes them not independent. It makes them not confident. It ruins their self-esteem. It underdevelops coping skills.
Laundry?
It increases anxiety. All these things that you do for your kids, if you're just sitting there wiping their asses, they'll never fucking learn on their own.
Yeah, I think you're all right doing laundry for your kids. I don't think any
Oh, there you
adult
go.
failed at not learning how to do laundry.
Mama Masterson said it's okay to do your laundry for your kids. No time parenting advice. Go vote it up.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
What else?
Like, look, I heard on this other program they're talking about this phenomenon of helicopter parenting. And by the way, this isn't even popular right now. This was really popular in the late '90s. This isn't something that's new. They talked about this phenomenon where we have an outrageous amount of people who have anxiety when it comes to food, and we have weird allergies that never existed before. And some some scientists started looking at this and saying, well, where the fuck is this coming from? What has happened? What is the cultural shift that has happened where suddenly, a decade or two ago, we weren't experiencing this tidal wave of people with allergies?
I know why.
Well, I want to hear your theory, Sean. What?
It's because they're not allowed to develop immune systems when they're young.
Bingo. And it's specifically because of helicopter parenting. They are too afraid that their child might have allergies to shellfish or peanuts or whatever, so they'll abstain from it because you're not supposed to eat honey when you're breastfeeding. You're not supposed to eat seafood when you're breastfeeding. You're not supposed to give your kids peanuts until a certain age because, God forbid, they have some weird allergy or whatever. But what they found is that by not exposing your kids to these allergens, they're developing way more severe allergies.
They don't let them outside.
They don't let them outside. They don't let them go out and play in the yards. You want to see overparenting, Dick? Go drive down. There's a neighborhood in Los Angeles where it's just a bunch of families who have these trampolines set up, and I have never seen anything more pathetic than these trampolines.
They have nets around them, don't they?
They have
that's
nets
the
around them.
worst,
Yeah,
man.
they have nets around them. Not only do they have nets around them, Sean, the legs have padding on them.
Man, I fell off a trampoline into a fucking pine tree and I snapped the top third of the pine tree off when I was a kid.
I was complaining about the nets around trampolines recently with this girl, and she's like, "Well, why do you not like them?" And she's like, "Oh man, when I was a kid, the parents would go inside and we would jump off of them, see how high we could jump, and fuck up our collarbones and our necks. It was awesome."
Right.
I'm like, "Wait a minute, there's no reason to be against those nets that isn't because of danger. Damn it." And then you know
It's true. Yeah, man, you're not letting kids experience life anymore. There's another teacher who, actually this administrator for a private school, who came out with this article a while back who said that he had a strict rule on his playground, which is if kids get hurt, they can't come crying to the teachers. And he just let them duke it out. He let them figure it out. And he found that over time, the kids became more confident, more self-reliant. They started, they bullied each other less. They figured it out. They just were allowed to be kids and go out there and fucking live their lives and scrape their knees every now and then. They didn't have fucking mama sitting there with baby wipes every time they fell down and had a boo-boo.
The world is full of hand sanitizer.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so anyway, they found that Sean, yeah, by not exposing these kids to these allergens that we are getting way more severe allergies than we've never seen before in our lives. And now studies have come out. They said that even people who have peanut allergies, even people who have allergies to shellfish and these things that people normally have allergies to, if you expose it to them little by little over time during their upbringing, they won't have as severe reactions or be any reactions at all.
Well, if that's not true, I'm sure we'll hear about it.
Not from these drug lords. Anyway, Dick, what do you
I
got?
know you're big on honey and like it stops allergies. I don't know if we ever settled that today.
Well, I looked into that as well, and it turns out regular honey probably does not. It's inconclusive. I've seen
You
some
gotta go to Whole Foods.
No, I've seen some studies that say it does. I've seen some studies that say it doesn't. The one honey that people say is promising is this honey that comes from the Netherlands or New Zealand called Manuka honey. I did look into that, and there are some studies that do back that up as some kind of therapeutic effect. I don't know what it is.
So what age would you talk to your kids about sex then? Not
boy, I don't
to
know,
not
man.
be a helicopter parent. Are you gonna give them unfettered access to the internet?
I think I may. Look, I don't know much about kids and parenting, but I do know this. I look at parents who are successful in my life, and I look and see what they're doing with their kids, and I would try to emulate them.
Well, I look at the kids.
Well,
to
yeah,
figure out
both.
whether the parents did a good job.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'll give you a perfect example. One of my brothers had great kids. I am so impressed by my nephews. They're fucking fantastic, man. They're sharp. They're polite. They're friendly. They're outgoing. You go up to them. You see them. They come up to you. They look you in the eye and they shake your hand. They say, "Pleased to meet you." How about that? How about that? Real fucking human beings. They're fantastic kids. Whatever they're doing, whatever mojo they're doing works. They are disciplined. They are responsible. They're hardworking. I look to see. I look to one. I believe is 10 and 12 right now.
I gotta wait a couple decades to see how exactly.
Well, I mean, your nephew's the bee's knees. How old's he?
Oh, this wasn't like a my dog is better than your dog.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that.
Well, just even comparing similarly aged adolescents for behavior and discipline and responsibility. Just looking at that, already miles ahead.
So do they do his laundry? I would assume no.
I don't know.
Do they knit their own clothes?
Yeah, they gotta be self-sufficient.
No, Sean.
You can't buy them their clothes.
They don't live on a farm, fuckface. All right, what do you got?
Do they have to make their own school lunch? Stuff like that?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I've also seen it the other way, where parents are way too strict and weird authoritarian ways that are not like helicopter parents. They're just real dickheads and blowhards about it, and that causes their kids to have huge privacy issues. They have huge issues with privacy and anxiety and control. And for girls, it can develop into eating disorders. For guys, it can develop into drug abuse.
Right?
Anyway, Dick, what do you got?
Yeah. I think you're like helicopter parenting. Is that when a parent marches into a teacher's, like writes into a college professor's email and says, "My daughter deserved an A on this political science paper." That means nothing.
That's really annoying.
I am so glad. I'm so glad you
I'm
mentioned
trying to think
that.
of what it actually is.
Well,
that list. I'll give you sounded like a bunch of crap.
Well,
do your laundry and make your.
You keep talking about laundry. That's the only thing you mentioned on this. It says they tie their shoes. It says tie their shoes. Yeah, but you're only picking one out of this
Why
entire
did they
list.
put it in there if it's stupid? That's their
You're
article.
cherry picking. It says here, tie your shoes, clear their plates, pack their lunches, launder their clothes, and monitor their school progress, even after the children are mentally and physically capable of doing the task. Is that not clear? After they're capable of doing their task themselves, they're still doing it. That's the helicopter parenting. Tying their shoes?
See, that's weird.
Why is that weird? What aren't you getting here?
Job specialization is pretty useful for efficiency. I mean, what's wrong with doing their laundry or tying their shoes?
Stop mentioning laundry. I listed a whole fucking list. Tying their shoes,
clearing the plates
after they're capable of doing so themselves. You think there's no problem with that?
What, everybody clears their own plate?
Oh, here, Dick. What's your next problem? Here, let me do that for you, baby.
How old were you when you lived in your parents' basement? Were you yelling for soup and correspondence?
Yeah, was that helicopter parenting?
You guys, it was a joke. It was a throwaway line. My God.
No, that wasn't a joke. You meant that seriously. You definitely banged on the door on the ceiling and asked for soup. It wasn't a joke. Because a joke is funny.
My mom would occasionally bring me soup downstairs, but
is that helicopter parenting?
Hold on. And I would occasionally bang on the ceiling with the broom.
Yeah.
But those two incidents usually happened distinctly from another. So I would bang on for something unrelated.
Well, like what?
Like pick up the phone. This was before cell phones. This was when we were
I understand. I don't think you wanted her to come down to you and pick up your phone and put it up to your ear.
No, but this was like when I lived at home and we had a landline. I would take the broom sometimes if I wanted my mom to pick up. I'd bang on the fucking ceiling. And yeah, sometimes my mom would bring me soup. But here's the thing, man. I'll tell you. My mom did my laundry for way too long. And to the point where when I finally moved out of the apartment, when I finally moved out on my own, I didn't know how to do fucking laundry on my own. I had to learn.
Hard to learn?
No, it wasn't hard to learn, but it was a life skill that I didn't possess.
Dick, do you remember when a mutual friend of ours...
Oh, this is a great story.
He puked on his pants. This was... how old were you?
16. 15 or 16.
Okay, something like that, at least.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, you tell it. So, this friend of ours, parents were gone. Yeah. So we were all over at his house. So everyone had beer. We were drinking, and this friend of ours, whose mom definitely had done his laundry his entire life. Right. And mine does too. It's great. She still wants to do it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to she folds the shirts. Anyway, this guy.
Look how independent you are.
Yeah. I taught myself. After she stopped, my girlfriend started doing it, and then she spilled a bunch of bleach on my shorts. It's like, all right, I'll do this from now on. Thank you very much.
Could be worse. Could be coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I just read the bottle. It wasn't like a life skill, or my self-esteem wasn't affected by it. Anyway, this friend of ours threw up all over himself because he must have had 3 or 4 beers, I think. And at that age, that's a lot of beers. He threw up on himself and he started panicking because he needed to come up with a story why he fell in the pool to explain why his clothes were all wet. And Sean just said, well, why don't you just wash them? He goes, well, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
My mom washed washes all that blood.
Yeah.
You could see the gears kind of slowly crank in his head, like
Yeah.
it was just never thought of.
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
Yeah.
wash your fucking pants.
Yeah, man. My mom always did my laundry, and I didn't learn how to do it until I moved out. And there were lessons that you had to learn. Like, there's, generally speaking, there aren't. It doesn't say. I don't know. There are things that you have to learn about doing laundry. Like, for example, using a laundry bag for small articles so they don't get stuck in the drain. That's something I kind of had to learn the hard way. I mean, these are life skills.
I don't know that one. What is
Yeah.
it?
Use a laundry bag. So if you have a lot of panties that you're washing, you know.
I don't do that. I like to keep the smell on it.
Gross.
Because they're not being used again, obviously, if they're like light.
It's like lettuce and mustard.
What is this bag that you have to use?
A laundry bag. You never heard of it?
I've heard of it. I just don't know what it has to do with small things falling down the drain.
Dick, it's so funny. You, Mr. Laundry Expert, you've never heard of a laundry bag.
No, I've heard of a laundry
You don't
bag.
use it. That's what they're
a
for.
laundry bag, no.
Yeah, that's what they're for. So you don't have small things like small socks, panties, any small articles of clothing that need to be washed. You put it in a laundry bag so it doesn't get sucked down the drain and cause a clog.
What drain?
The laundry drain, in the washing machine.
I've never had a washing machine where that was possible.
Me either.
Well, it's happened to me.
Because even change stays in the bottom
Yeah,
of the
even
wash
change stays in the bottom.
Well, change is heavy. I'm talking about something that's kind of like, some of the hair bands you use, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're
panties,
also
that sort of. Well, I don't know, man. These exist for a reason, and that's what they're there for. That's what happened. I was in an apartment one time that I was renting, and I put a bunch of clothes in, and this was a front-loading washer, so maybe that had something to do with it. But it was a front-loading washer, and it sucked some socks or something down the drain, caused a clog, and the plumber came and said, "Oh, you got to use a laundry bag so the stuff."
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure
It probably is with
front.
front-loading washers.
Yeah. Well, your mom did your laundry, so maybe that's why you don't know.
I've never had front-loading laundry. Mr. Fancy Pants. I gotta use the apartment complex ones like Sesame Street.
Oh, but one last point. So teachers sometimes it's leading to this phenomenon where parents are coming in and arguing with their kids' teachers when their teachers are trying to discipline them in class.
Yeah.
That is so fucking obnoxious. You're going to bat for your kid? What the fuck do you think the teacher's doing? You think they're sitting there conspiring against your little shit? You think your little shit's that special that your teacher's gonna sit there trying to come up with ways to fuck with them? No, their teacher doesn't give a shit. They're trying to do their job and go home. They know they're working long fucking hours. They don't have time to sit there thinking of ways to fuck with your stupid little monster. If the teacher says your kid disrespected him or her in class, guess what? He probably did. The teacher has better things to do than to make up stories and get you to come down and meet her or him for a parent-teacher conference. People have shit to do. They have busy lives. They have lives to lead. They don't have time for this shit. If your teacher is telling you your kid has a problem in school, listen to them. That's the biggest problem with helicopter parenting.
Okay. Ready for my problem?
Yeah.
It's the job lynch mob. How many times have I threatened to bring this in?
You have threatened to bring this in a lot. Well, what is it?
It's a job lynch mob.
What does that mean?
You heard of a lynch mob?
Yeah.
It's when they round up a posse and try and kill you.
No.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Same thing. Except they're trying to kill your job. You know what the thing is about a lynch mob? There's no justice to it. It's just a bunch of people who want to kill you. Doesn't matter why. You didn't go to a trial. You weren't found guilty of anything. It's just a bunch of people who decided they don't like you. They don't want you around anymore. So they round up a posse and they try to kill you. Maybe they hang you. Not necessary though to be a lynch mob. Imagine the same thing, but they're trying to kill your job. That's a job lynch mob.
Okay.
That's what it is. Happens a lot. Every time it happens, I want to bring it in. But every time something more important comes along, like burning your mouth on hot food, or banging your funny bone, this time, nothing. This time, only Prince died and someone got kicked off the $20 bill. No big deal, right?
Not that important.
Nothing controversial to talk about there.
No.
Well, those aren't going to happen again, most likely.
Prince?
Yeah, Prince is probably not going to die twice.
Not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
That's true.
They might
That's a
resurrect
good
him
point.
later on, because they'll always resurrect celebrities.
His hologram might die. They'll figure out a way to like turn him into a Tamagotchi.
Wow.
And that'll die.
I wish they'd figure out a way to make him make good music.
But this lynch mob, this is an ongoing thing, right?
It's an ongoing thing, and I think it's getting worse. So Kurt Schilling, you know who that guy is? Yeah. Commentator.
I've heard of it, but I don't know
I'm
what he
gonna
does.
breeze through it because I'm sure it's of interest to nobody who listens. He's a famous baseball pitcher. He's a commentator on ESPN. Fired for making an offensive tweet.
What was the tweet?
Does it matter?
Yes.
Why?
Well, what if he said the N-word?
Does that deserve? This is a serious question.
Yeah.
Does it deserve to be fired? Do you deserve to be fired? Like, do you want a society where you are fired for saying something offensive?
Do I want a society where your employer has the freedom to let you go if you misrepresent them? Yes.
Maddox, of course. Of course we know that it's a contract and if a company can let you go for any reason, especially if you embarrass them.
Right.
Of course.
If you give them a bad public image.
Oh, come on. Let's rise above that conversation because that's going on all day on think pieces on TV. Of course, they're employed by a company. They said something that embarrasses the company. Get rid of them. Of course. I wish we found that more offensive than the original offensive stuff.
Well, what was
That's
the
what I'm saying. Again, doesn't matter.
Yes.
How bad would it have to be for them to be fired to you? Because
homophobic,
let's take Gilbert Gottfried.
bigoted.
Let's take Gilbert Gottfried. Japan, rocked by a huge quake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A tsunami, excuse me. I'm using them interchangeably, but tsunami. He starts tweeting jokes about it. Japan's so advanced, they're bringing the beach to them.
Okay.
Right? It's not funny, right? Fired immediately. Of course. Do you think that was offensive enough for a man to lose his livelihood?
Dick, you know what? You're sitting here decrying a man losing his livelihood, but you're forgetting an important fact here. These are businesses, and businesses are in the business of making money. And if they piss off their customers by hiring a sponsor or spokesperson who's making asinine remarks that are insensitive after an earthquake and people threaten to boycott that business, guess what? The livelihood that's being threatened is not Gilbert Gottfried's, it's now theirs. And they have every right and reason and justification to let him go. I don't see the problem here.
I mean, well, all I'm asking for you to do is take that argument, which is obvious. Everybody knows that and agrees with it. Put it aside, just for the sake of the conversation. Obviously, I'm not talking about enacting some kind of bizarro law where companies are no longer allowed to put behavior clauses in contracts. Like, there's nothing insane like that.
Sure.
All I'm saying is the idea of taking someone's job away is the same as harming them physically in a lot of ways. Taking away their ability to make money. Remember that guy that killed Cecil, that dentist?
Yeah.
What did the mob want to do? They wanted to destroy his business.
That's right.
That somehow, we all look at that and say, well, that's okay. I think that's way worse than anything he could have said or done. I think it's comparable to harming someone physically. Because you're doing the max that you can do, the most amount of harm you can do to someone is take away their ability to feed themselves, take away all the work they've done for however many years to get where they are, to just take it away by the force of the mob. Like it's the maximum legally allowable amount of force that a mob can do to someone.
Yeah, it can be overly harsh.
And it's always, it's never just.
And we're so politically correct now, we're so afraid to offend anybody that it's just, the hatchet comes down almost immediately.
And that's the only direction that it works in. It only works as an arm of political correctness. I'm not bringing in political correctness right now, probably will someday, but that's what it is to me, and that's why it's so horrible. Of course, a company can fire anyone they want.
Yeah.
But tolerate it.
Listen.
And it's ugly. It's an ugly thing.
Listen, I heard you both. Hannity, Beck, I appreciate your comments.
Oh, God, come on.
I appreciate your comments here. Now, there's a very simple rephrasing of your problem that will help cast this problem into a new perspective, and that is this.
So he's going to help you.
Right.
No, it'll give you a new perspective. That is this. They are not taking away anything. They are giving him a job. All right?
The dentist?
Anyone who's employed, anyone who said anything, they're not having their jobs taken away. They're having their jobs given to them.
The dentist definitely does.
I'm talking
There's
about the
people trying to ruin
employers.
his-
Well, this Kurt, what's his name? Kurt
Schilling.
Schilling.
Well, I'm talking
Kurt
about
Schilling.
the job lynch mob.
Well, yeah, but let's look at this from the point of view of the employers.
But again, we've said, yes, of course, they have the right to do anything they want. Of course, they have the right to protect their
No. But you're saying that it's comparable to physical violence, to take away their job. It's so bad. It's like, oh my gosh, there's nothing worse.
I just think sometimes the bar is too low.
Oh, is there a bar?
Well,
what
did he say?
I mean, if you don't know, that should say enough. It wasn't offensive to get through your filter, and you're usually pretty hip on current events.
I do know what he said.
Oh, well, then why are you asking?
I want you to say it. What did he say? What did he say?
Well, you just want me to repeat an offensive tweet?
Well, if it's so bad that you won't even say it on this program, yet you're saying that the job lynch mob is totally this outrage machine that costs this poor guy his job.
Yeah, I'll say whatever you want. I'm not personally offended by it. I mean,
I'll read the tweet.
Opinion.
I'll read the tweet.
I just don't think the offensiveness of it is germane to this conversation.
It absolutely is.
To be fair, he has a long track record of this.
Oh, and so did Gilbert Gottfried. That's why he's famous. That's why they hired him. Like,
yeah. But now he's representing a huge corporation who can't have any egg on their face.
Right.
But Schilling, he's had repeated incidents.
Of course.
And been warned and all that kind of stuff. I don't feel too bad for him.
No, of course not. No. Go ahead.
This is according to the New York Times. It says the post, so he posted on Twitter, he said the post showed an overweight man wearing a wig and women's clothing with parts of the t-shirt cut out to expose his breasts. It says, let him in to the restroom with your daughter or else you're a narrow-minded, judgmental, unloving, racist bigot who needs to die. Not a very sophisticated comment on the ongoing debate that's going on right now in North Carolina, where they passed this bill that is trying to prevent people who are transsexual from using restrooms of the opposite sex. They want people with their biologically aligned genders to use the restroom that matches their genders, so their genitals. So that means people who have been post-operational, who look like women, men who now look like women, or women who now look like men. They have to go into the opposite bathroom just because of this weird law, which is like such a non-issue. There's never been any sexual assaults or anything like that from these transsexuals going to the bathroom. It's not where it happens. To that, Schilling added, a man is a man no matter what they call themselves. I don't care what they are, who they sleep with. Men's room was designed for the penis. Women's, not so much. Now you need laws telling us differently? Pathetic. That's what he said.
You have more to add?
That's the whole comment.
Well, right, but we all knew what he said.
Oh, okay.
What, you were going to add to it?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. It does sound transphobic.
So then you agree with the mob?
What mob? What mob? Where is this mob? What are you talking about?
The mob is who everyone's afraid of. That's why everyone gets fired. That's why Gilbert Gottfried got fired. Because companies are terrified of people who are offended by that. It's a guy's... maybe it's just me. When I hear an opinion I don't like, I'd like that. I don't want that person to be punished into lying about it. I'd like it to be expressed so it can be dissected. So it can be argued with.
Therein lies the rub with taking corporate influence when it comes to your speech. Because if they decide it, for whatever reason, what you said, even if it's innocuous, let's say what he said wasn't transphobic. Let's just say he just said something flippant that they didn't like. They can decide for any reason that it's going to be a harm to their potential customer base, and they can let you go. And by this mob, you keep saying it's a mob, it's a mob, it's a mob. What they are customers. And they're customers who are buying a product. And if their customers are unhappy, that's basically your shareholders. You have to respond to your shareholders. And when they're mad, guess what? You get rid of the problem. What do they have to gain?
Like you're explaining the basics of business about this.
Here's the thing,
we all know that.
What do they have to gain by keeping this guy? What do they have to gain?
Sometimes they think that they know what's going to offend the masses. And sometimes it's a very small percentage of letters they get, or it's an old lady saying, I heard the F word somewhere, and then
it's the same way books get banned.
It blows
the library
up into this
gets
whole
letters for something's offensive. Like, well, all these people are offensive. The parents, Television Council, that one company that's responsible for just generating outrage and contacting whomever in order to censor them. It's those kinds of people that they're afraid of. There just exists this machine of outrage.
No, the Parents Television Research Council is a lobbying group that is specifically pushing conservative agendas and specifically conservative Christian agendas. and they're trying to keep the airwaves clean, and they're doing it in a really shady way. Libraries, on the other hand, don't have corporate influences. That's why I like libraries, and that's why if a library banned a book, that's a huge story. That's a big deal. That's why libraries can have any number of seedy books in their record. They can have hate speech. They can have anything you could possibly want under the sun. They can have it there. But as for this Kurt Schilling guy, he said something irresponsible, and this mob that you keep calling them are customers essentially. Let me ask you this.
But it's really a lot of people this happens to.
Well, let me ask you this. We're specifically talking about this because that's why you brought it in. Sean said that you said it's a small percentage of people who are outraged or offended.
No, I'm saying that
There's no way to know.
Yeah, there's no way to know.
Well,
If
there
they
is.
just chop it off at the knees, then
Oh, that's what. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
they-
Sean said that they are proactive. They're being proactive here, and they're assuming. Well, in this case, were they being proactive, or was there
It was
outrage?
instantaneous.
in this case, I think he had gotten enough backlash. Again, this case, I think he absolutely deserved to be fired.
I mean, I don't even want to get into that because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to
It
me.
does. It does. What you say matters. You should be. Look, you have the freedom of speech in this country. I'm so fucking tired of morons, armchair constitutionalists sitting there. That's freedom of speech. How come I got banned on your forum? Because guess what, shithead? You still have the freedom of speech. You just don't have to say it wherever you want. You can't come into my fucking house and spew your bullshit. Get the fuck out. If you want freedom of speech, go to the sidewalk and say whatever the fuck you want. You can say it whatever you want. You can write in your blog. You can text it to friends. Do whatever you want. But when you do it in a public forum, when you're representing another company, yeah, guess what? There are consequences. You have freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequence. What's the problem? I don't see the disconnect. He has the freedom to say whatever he wants, and now he can do it completely unrestrained. In fact, who's the employer? The MLB? Major League Baseball? Whatever.
ESPN, I believe.
ESPN. Now they've done him a favor because now he can go say whatever he wants completely unrestrained. Aren't they doing a good thing for this guy?
Well, it's also all owned by Disney.
Well, that's true.
So you know
Vote
they're
up
gonna
Disney.
they're
Vote
gonna
up
be
Disney,
conservative
buckos.
on the
Yeah, I thought you would have this opinion on it. The only reason I brought it in
Yeah.
is simply to say that the idea of firing someone, taking away their livelihood because of something they said, I wish was more abhorrent than anything you could say. Because using intimidation and violence to force people not to say what they think, to force them to toe a politically correct line, is, I think, one of the most damaging things in society that there could be in a free society, because it's a stepping stone. So it's part of control. It's a mechanism of control.
Slippery slope, Maddox.
That's why I brought it in. It's not to have these elementary and academic arguments about contracts and branding and this and that and the other. It's that everyone immediately accepts it as, well, they're just covering their ass. He said something bad. You gotta punish that. And I really disagree with that. It happens. So there's this guy, I mean, this has already gotten too long, but there was a guy, Violent Acres, on Reddit, who was on, you know, doing lewd things on the internet, as the whole point of the internet is. Wow. And he got outed for doing it, instantly fired. And everyone treats this as some kind of victory, but it should make people sick. Rounding up a posse and executing them.
I don't like the
I think that's bullshit.
I don't like the snap judgment part of it.
Me either.
Where you don't even get the whole story a lot of the time.
No, because people don't care.
Hold on, Dick. You're being so flip about thoughts and what our beliefs are. What our beliefs and our thoughts are the only thing that separates us from people who like the Ku Klux Klan. Would you hire a Ku Klux Klan member to represent your company?
To Hitler?
Look, we're talking specifically, this is an American problem, this happened in America. Let's talk about the Ku Klux Klan. Would you hire a Ku Klux Klanman to represent your company?
Is that a serious question?
Absolutely.
How is that possibly a serious question, Maddox?
Would you give a job to someone like that?
Like, you're acting all pissed off, but are you seriously asking a question?
His lofty claim that we are punishing people for their thoughts, right?
Yeah, and their
It's police. But the only thing that makes someone
It's
more.
the difference between being prejudiced and then going forward to discrimination.
Yeah.
You have an employee that comes out and says something transphobic. Like, you know what? I think trans people should be burned at the stake because they're less than human, less than whatever hateful thing they come out and say. Now you are saying that there should be moral outrage for people who would want to get rid of someone like that, rather than the person who has those beliefs, who says those hateful things, well, that then can incite violence towards people. Like, look, I'm not a big fan of thought crimes.
Is this still part of your question?
Yeah, it's your company. You would want someone like that representing your company.
You can dislike both.
I mean, yeah. Are you asking if I would like that? You just said you
Yes.
would like someone like
No,
that
I'm asking,
representing your company.
Would you?
Are you fucking serious? Would I like someone going around saying transsexuals should be killed? Would representing my company? Is it a real question?
Would you
Again,
fire someone like for that or not?
Ooh, it depends. How much do they have to drink? Did they post the wrong Twitter account? Look,
Was he hacked?
yeah, he probably got hacked. That's what we're going with. Yeah, I think you're kind of fundamentally missing my argument here, which is, one is offensive, and everyone recognizes it as being offensive.